I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Katie, would you take a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Gotchel?
Here.
Councilman Duran?
Here.
Councilman Jackson?
Here.
Councilman Luper?
Here.
Councilwoman Camp?
Here.
Councilman Tucker?
Here.
Mayor Nichols?
Here. All right, I'd like to call to order the August 26th Craig City Council meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion and a second. Councilman Luper made a motion to approve as presented, seconded by Councilman Jackson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have the consent agenda. Next item is the agenda. Approval of the agenda for August 26, 2025, regular council meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Councilman Jackson made a motion to approve as presented, seconded by Councilmember Luper. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. Item 3, presentations, none scheduled. Item 4, Mr. Brixis, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I was out for a few days, some personal things, and so you'll have to bear with me on a short report tonight. So, first off, we've had a very attractive offer to buy out a current cell tower lease that still has 10 years remaining and a possibility of a future 25 to 30 years. So we're working on that. I'm waiting for a draft option agreement from the current leaseholder and an easement exhibit that they are going to produce. Once we have that information and a good idea of the terms that they are proposing for this buyout and the value of the buyout, we'll get back with council and determine what your pleasure would be on that particular transaction, if any. We should have all that information very soon, so I expect within the next couple of weeks we'll be scheduling something to get back with you on that. The franchise agreement with Atmos, last piece of it is still in their court. We're waiting for their any changes to the final draft. If no changes, then we'll have that on the agenda for the next meeting. Wait, no, we won't, because we have several public hearings and advertisement requirements for that. So that's, we're looking at another month and a half to 2 months to complete that process. Our Public Works Director, Danny Paul, had submitted a MMOF grant this week, $150,000 through the TPR CDOT. And this is for the train-oriented district study that was approved at the last meeting. So that's been submitted. And Danny, what's the award time for that?
I was told in an email we're supposed to hear back from them. I think it was September 10th or thereabout with any comments they might have, and then we'll have a chance to revise our application and resubmit by the end of September. Award, they didn't give a time frame on that. Probably a month or two thereafter based on the last round.
Thank you. Also, we have the archaeological report for the site that we're talking about, the acquisition transaction tonight. The 24.6 acres, the archaeological study has been completed, and we still have one step to finish up. That's the SHPO review of the project, and we typically have to go out and get tribal decision. I think there's 31 tribes in the state. Last time we did this with HUD, we had to send out information on the archaeological study, and the site, and generally they just pass it through and say that they have no comment. Generally, is what they say, especially based on the fact that it's within city limits. That usually limits their comments and any concerns. I was going to ask Shannon tonight to give us a brief update on some of the marketing information that's been produced and where we're at with that for the 8th Street project.
Sure. So last Thursday, we sent out a constant contact email to our list of employers. We already did get a report back of how many folks actually received that, how many opened, how many bounced back, and then how many people did not open the email. I think everybody but 2 folks opened it. So really good response rate and open rate on those. Our social media posts should start going out this week. We have gotten the first proofs for the on-site signage. So essentially, we're going to be putting out 2 4x10 banners. There's a spot between each of the townhomes on each side where there's kind of a gap between each of the 2 buildings. So we'll have the 4x10 banners that go right there. We will have 4 flag banners and 4 sandwich boards that go on each of the corners. We'll have yard signs that are going to go in each of the empty units, and then once they're sold, there's some signage that will go in the sold units as well in the yards. We do have the landing page complete as well, so that is actually being hosted on the Discover Craig website. So if you go to Discover Craig under site selection, you'll see that. We have all updated photos now that include the landscaping and the carports. We have 360 interior videos, if you will, of the 2 and the 3 bedroom units. So all that's been updated. The good news about having that hosted on the Discover Craig website is we can actually track the leads that go there. So we had talked about just maybe doing some upgrades to the current CHA website, but this allows us the capability to actually track visitors and follow up with them. So it's taken a little bit longer than we'd hoped, but it's coming together, and obviously we'll have to, continue to do our part to follow up with the employers and things like that. So any questions on 8th Street?
Good that it's moving.
Yep.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. Last item I had was, of course, part of the budgeting process. We're looking through the insurances and getting quotes for, property casualty, the general liability insurance, our workman's comp. And we met with our medical insurance coverage was through CEBT. Our representative was here today. And the cost of the plan is the first time in many years that we've seen a double-digit improvement or increase, and that's it looks like it's going to be about 13.5%. So over the next week or so, we're going to be looking pretty hard at the various plans and the plan options and how we can minimize the impact to the employees and those on the plan, but by the same token, minimize the premium for the policy as we look at some options, some of the plan options, some of the things that we can do kind of creatively internally to help reduce those costs as well. And so that's a key item for the city right now in terms of budget consideration. All right, I think that's my short report tonight. Any questions?
Questions for Peter?
Anything?
So I have one on the franchise agreements with our utility providers. Is there any provision, not so much with Atmos, but on the other utility boxes, who's responsible for removing the graffiti? Because I know we've had city crews out there, and I know CDOT did some work, and I'm not sure who painted over the Yampa Valley Electric boxes, but we're getting quite a bit of.
Yeah, Danny wants to address, I
I've
think.
been talking to Yampa Valley Electric. I did research that franchise agreement. There's nothing in there that requires them to remove it. I was told by their operations manager last week that they sent a crew out to cover over those. And they're willing to do more. So if you're seeing them out there, council, anyone in the public can let me know, and I can coordinate with YVA to have that removed.
It's not YVA now. I think it's maybe internet cable right there on the trail, walking behind the
Spectrum.
apartments on the Finley side.
Okay.
And that in the phone box, it's spreading. Every time we walk there, it's more and more graffiti.
And I think they keep tagging and tagging, so hopefully we can catch them soon and put an end to it. But I can follow up with those utility providers as well.
Just so there's somebody, hate to have city crews have to go out and try to clean up graffiti all the time. I think we need a game camera there or something to catch them, but I'm not sure if that's legal. Gary? No.
Well, CDOT was Johnny on the spot when they were
Right.
asked to take care of that.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, and Yapa Valley Electric didn't take too long. They had a little more coordination to do, but they got the first round, and it looks like we have some more to take care of at this point, so,
Nope, thank you.
okay.
Any other for Peter? If not, Luke, council report.
I attended the city barbecue, which looked like a great event and looked like everybody had a good time. Also attended the whole tech meetings we had, and I thought very informative and good info coming in from them. And airport meeting is next week, so that's all I've got today.
Andrew?
Let's see. So I attended the community leadership meeting that we had, which included the school district, Moffett County, MRH. We had a lot of really good, positive conversation, I thought, that came out of that, and just kind of figuring out what other organizations are doing, and making sure that we're communicating and being transparent. And so I think those are going to be quarterly meetings, which I think will be great. The CURE meeting. I also attended the planning and zoning meeting last week. I am also a judge for the business plan competition that we're doing, so we had several applicants for that. And so I spent several days going through and reviewing all of those business plans and making comments. So we'll look forward to that competition and having those presentations in October. I attended the LMD meeting. I did miss the Wood report, unfortunately, but most of the rest of the conversation there was LMD marketing and the renewal of that LMD, which will be on the ballot, of course, coming in November. The other thing that I attended along with Randy and Chris was we received an invitation last week on the 18th that Governor Polis was going to be in Craig on the 19th, and he was going to be at Fitch Ranch to tour the facility and meet with those owners. I was looking forward to the opportunity to be able to do a walkthrough of that facility, because I have not been able to do that yet. And then just kind of get caught up with Fitch Ranch on, their current operations and what their expansion looks like, and kind of, just tracking progress on that. Unfortunately, by the time we got there, they had pretty much completed that walkthrough. He was running a little ahead of schedule, so we kind of just caught the very tail end of that. We did have a few minutes to visit with him a little bit about some of our issues, we're facing here in Craig, and, brief conversations. And then a couple of the staff members did stay after for a little bit and had additional conversation with us. I'm not sure if people are aware, but Olivia Neese, who grew up here in Craig, actually does work in the governor's office now. So I think that's great that we do have, a contact person that we can maybe reach out to if we have questions or kind of need to figure out who we need to speak with on any issue. So they did stay behind and visit with us for a few more minutes, and then we were only there 15 or 20 minutes, and then we left. I did see some negative comments on social media, of course, about that. And I know I did speak with Deborah Fitch, and she had been contacted or had kind of received some backlash about her interactions with the governor. And I spoke with her this morning, and she just said, her goal is really to start to educate lawmakers about agriculture in hopes that they will introduce positive policy. And she also stated we can either complain about it or we can do something about it, which I thought that was a good position. So I just think as city council members, it's important for us to be at those events, to support our local businesses. Whether we feel like those things are going to make an immediate difference in our community, they probably won't, but I think over time, hopefully if we continue to have a voice at the table or have those opportunities where we can meet with those leaders, just to continue to kind of share our story and be a voice for our community, I do think that is a positive thing. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Good. Randy, I'm afraid to
Okay,
ask.
I got a lot. I had a lot of meetings the last 2 weeks. I had a Northwest Colorado Innovation Center finance meeting. We talked about the 2025 budget. We also met with Amplify Architecture on their various designs for the bell tower. Went over some changes that we wanted them to do, and then move that forward. I was at the Cura meeting with most of the rest of you. I had a Moffett County Tourism Association meeting. They came to agree to sign a new 3-year lease with the city at the Yampa building they're going to have a $100 a month increase, but they did agree to move forward with that. They also decided to continue their ads in the Colorado Visitors Guide and the CTO program, which for a cost of $13,100, and with the National Parks leads for $13,790. There's a lot of discussion about whether to move forward with that versus doing digital, and getting feedback as to whether digital really is the way to go at this point. They just decided they needed to move forward with those ads at this point, and then just research, do a lot more research over the next year, whether paper is the continuous way to go or move totally to digital. So that was a lot of their meeting. I was at the quarterly meeting with the rest of you on the information. I was also at the city picnic. I was also at the LMD, where we did spend most of our time talking about how we're going to market the LMD and what we've done over the last 9 years. I was at the Yampa Valley Airport Commission. There is a new housing development being proposed next to Bob Adams Airport in Steamboat. And actually, with zoning, they're going to be able to build right next to the airport. So that's going to be a P&Z issue when it comes up, because you're going to end up with lots of complaints if you're building new homes, multi-million-dollar homes, right on top of Bob Adams. So that was something that they're dealing with. Tennille Gerber is the new manager, and she is out of Craig, and so this is her first meeting to us. She also introduced Casey Hume, who is their new operations superintendent. So that's great to have two of the top leadership at that airport is now basically Craig connections and out of Craig. They talked a lot about the terminal construction, and that's still moving forward, and they're hoping still to break ground by April 26th on that new terminal. As it moves forward, it's going to be the largest capital project that ever happened in Rock County. They're looking at almost over $80 million by the time it's done, with various grants and other things. What else? They hired assistant manager Mark Fisher out of Florida to replace Tennille as the assistant manager. And they are also having discussions. Emerald, for those of you who did not know, Steamboat, the taxi service, the transportation service pulled out of the airport. And so they're going to have limited possibilities at this point. And so Emerald Transportation has a limo license, but does not have the commercial carrier license yet. So they're pushing through with the PUC to try to get that up and going by the time ski season starts. So that's a big deal that we're moving forward with. What else? I also had a Northwest Colorado Innovation Center meeting where we approved that budget that the Finance Committee had talked about. We had a meeting basically with Dr. Jones and the Vice President of Operations at CNCC, Jeff Peterson, about whether they can partner with the Innovation Center. And after numerous discussions, we're still talking about it, but it's just what the Innovation Center is looking for is what the workers want, which is they want training in what businesses need. And that can be a 1 month to 6 month training. They're not looking for a 2-year certificate type program. So we're still in negotiations, but I don't see that really moving forward. We also move forward with a new revolving loan fund. It's called Northwest Catalyst Capital. I was at the Economic Development Advisory Council meeting We spent a lot of time going over the 2026 budget and what we're moving forward for next year with that. We had presentations by Dr. Nathan Perry on the economic labor data from Moffett County and how that's been over the past and moving forward. We had a presentation from Christine Rambo from the Northwest Colorado Development Council and the Northwest Colorado Innovation Center on what they've all been doing economically in this area over the past 3 to 4 years. And then we had a presentation by Ashley Dishman with the Small Business Development Council. And just so everyone knows, her position is grant funded, and that will end in July 2026. So that's something the city probably needs to talk about, is to funding of what we want to do with that. They have 11 entries so far for the total for the business plan competition, which is a huge increase. I mean, when it started, you had two. So it's been an amazing growth, and it's been great for those businesses. It's helped them to learn what they've needed, whether they've won the prize or not. They've all learned, and all of them have succeeded and moved forward. So I think that's a great thing. Shannon just went over the market launch of the 8th Street, which we went over. At Chamber, I had a Chamber Finance meeting where we were also trying to work on the 2026 budget. And also figuring out, we have now received payment from the Chapmans on the Chamber building, and moving forward as to what we want to do to long-term invest that money, and what our options are. So that was a long discussion. I was also at the Fitch Ranch meeting with Governor Polis and at the Holtec meeting. I helped out at the communication the last 2 weeks. I started again my 15th year as the chain gang at the high school football game, and we were able to honor Daniel Baker. For those of you who don't know, he passed away this past year. He was part of the chain gang for the last 5 years, so we were able to do basically honor him with the family at the start of the game, and I thought that was really nice. I was at an MRH geothermal meeting. For those of you who don't know, the heating and cooling system at the hospital is having issues, and it's going to need to be replaced. And there's various ways of looking at it. Geothermal is a strong possibility. Bryce Carter with the Colorado Energy Office basically did a presentation on what it can do for them. They had also received a grant from the Energy Office to study, to move forward with this. And then for those of you who don't know, CNCC is heated and air conditioned by geothermal. So that's another possibility of figuring out a way to hook up through that. Basically, they're cost-wise, with the tax credits that are still available, they're going to be gone shortly, but are still available now. There's lots of ways for the MRH to move forward with geothermal that will cost them almost the same as doing a regular type system. So they're just doing a lot of things with that. And then I had numerous, probably 12 or 13 RTA meetings in the last 2 weeks on finalizing the IGA agreement, which I'll talk more with you guys on when we get to that.
You and Peter.
I'm done.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. Michelle?
I attended the Holtec meeting. I also attended the community leadership meeting that Andrea already touched on. I also attended the city staff picnic. That was, again, a really good event. Thank you. I did attend a rural health roundtable last week with Shannon. That was at MRH. There were, I want to say 10 rural health clinics at the table, and really they were just there to voice their concerns around HR 1 and the impacts that bill could have on rural health. Again, it's something else that's received a lot of criticism on social media, and I think it goes along the same lines of what Andrea said. It's, we can either complain about the problem or be part of the solution. So I think it's really important for us to continue to have a seat at those tables and advocate where we can. I also attended the Anti-Suicide Squad meeting. No big updates from there. I attended the football game Friday night, and then I've been asked to attend Wellness Wednesday at the Senior Social Center next week, so I will be there talking about my campaign, and that is it.
Derek?
Did any of you guys work the last 2 weeks?
Randy doesn't.
You said your report was
It
longer.
was busy. I was busy too, but that's impressive.
You were
Whole tech
busy
meeting.
making money.
Whole tech meeting, informative. Thank you for putting that on. Answered a lot of questions and clarified a lot of things that I was thinking about. Community meeting was great. Also great, good job putting that on, Chris and Peter. You know, we aligned with a lot of the major entities in this community, and that's what we need to do moving forward. Employee barbecue, great job to staff who put it together. It was a fun activity. Parks and Rec meeting, obviously we had an update, or we heard about the Victory Gardens being updated a couple weeks ago. That was a in-house capital project by the city, which will be maintained in the future by the city, so that's looking good. Pickleball update for everyone. Ryan is currently working with Ayers and Associates for a concept and design and an estimate for budget purposes for next year for 4 courts, potentially at Woodbury. So that is moving forward, just on the concept side, just for budget purposes. So we'll be seeing something this fall. Craig Sports Complex, I'm sure many people in the room saw the survey that's been out on social media in regards to that. Sounds like pretty good responses and participation. Over 750 surveys were taken as of 2 weeks ago. And Melanie stated that there was a 5.6 response rate on those surveys, and anything above 5 is really good, is what she told me. So good traction there. Update on the Woodbury dugouts. Jennison Contracting has been, obviously we approved that contract a couple weeks ago. He's underway on it with completion date mid-October of 2025. So I know a lot of people are asking about the dugouts and what's going on at Woodbury, and so they should be completed here in the next month and a half. As mentioned a couple weeks ago, there are 2 at-large board vacancies for the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. So anyone listening, anyone out in the audience that might have interest on being on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, it's a 2-year or 3-year term. We meet once a month, typically the 3rd Wednesday at noon for an hour and a half. So it's a good way to get involved with Parks and Rec from youth all the way up to seniors. So planning and zoning, last Monday, which we have obviously some topics on the agenda, so I won't go over all of it. One that is not on the agenda tonight, we heard from Bertha and Diego Garcia to vacate a 30-foot by 104-foot portion of city alley adjacent to 455 East 7th Street. This is the property right next to Fortification Creek that leads into Sherwood Park, correct? Yep. There was some discussion that if we vacated that, we'd be taking away access to that Sherwood Park, and that is not the case. So, Planning and Zoning did recommend to council to approve that, that property right there. Obviously, we heard the site plan on the Meadows Apartments LLC. We had a public hearing. There was about 20 community members in the audience that spoke on the public hearing. We also heard on the traffic study, and we heard from the developer, the Dragoos, on that. And then lastly, we had Chloe Villard, who just did a short presentation on potentially moving the Mud Shack to a piece of property that she's looking to purchase. And she just wanted to discuss next steps with planning and zoning on conditional use permit and moving forward potentially with that. And then lastly, on last Thursday, I was able to meet with Public Works Director Danny Paul and Billy Mack. Billy Mack has shown concerns about the stormwater drainage that occurs on his property, south of First Street, east of Mack Street. So it was good to be able to, we've heard from him a couple times in the past year, and it was good to be able to go out there and walk the drainage with him and see actually what goes on, and hopefully come up with a solution in the future, which it was a good discussion. There's some options there. So just keep building that relationship with Mr. Mack and moving forward, because that's very important to the city. The entire city drains there. So other than that, that's all I got. But yeah, busy couple weeks.
And did you work any then?
A little bit.
You were busy too.
I told my guys I was working.
Okay. Jesse?
I also attended the whole tech meeting, was very informative. Kira, and then CNCC. Dr. Jones, president, is kind of wanting to move forward with an aggressive timeline for their student housing. But, so they put it towards the board and are waiting for them to be able to evaluate and look through all the information to go to the next step. But utilizing some of their rainy day fund to kind of support that is a part of their tough decision. But besides that, they had all 5 board members are gonna be open this year. So if anyone wants to join their board, they're supposed to be a part of the election process, but they were a little behind, so they're trying to figure out what they need to do that. So we'll be finding that out. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Well, I'll try to be brief, but since Randy, no. Attended Craig Urban Renewal Authority meeting to discussion on creating a URA zone, 3rd zone, to take in the property for the business park and some other vacant property, potentially the courthouse site, and give some incentives for future development. Employee, thank you, employee picnic. First of all, I want to start off with the staff that set that up. Mindy, your decorations look great. Thank you very much for putting that together. Stakeholders meeting, you had Derek talked about it a little bit. This came up during our strategic planning session we did in April. Council said they wanted the community stakeholders to meet with council and the commissioners, so we're all on the same page with projects. Wasn't sure how that was going to go. I originally suggested that we meet at least annually, maybe every 6 months, but the group came back and said, no, we want to meet quarterly. So I think that, the meeting went pretty favorable from that standpoint. It's always good to hear what the other groups are working, so we can kind of stagger our initiatives, not to overwhelm the community at the same time. Business plan, Shannon, will you, no, 11 business plans, I'm a judge as well. That was, the business plans are quite in detail. So you can spend an hour and a half to 2 hours grading each of those plans to go through them and then to write your comments on the judge's form. Shannon's created some very thorough judging criteria. We had some pretty tough competition with those 11 applicants. How many moved forward? 7. 7 moved forward when she compiled all the judges. So can't wait to the next phase, see how that goes. Zoning and planning, I attended as well. Derek covered it good. Holtec meeting, very informative to see what potential this may have and potentially down the road leading to an expression of interest, potentially. I attended the meeting with Governor Polish at Fitch Ranch. In the opportunity I have to take to the governor, the state, one of our local businesses is trying to have a $30 million expansion plan. I took that opportunity to tell the governor, as well as his staff, we're supposedly an economic development zone, our end of the state due to our transition. So the financial institution she's working with said, well, if you build this anywhere but Craig, you wouldn't need this extra surety, this extra bonding. So I made sure the governor heard that and his staff, and then say, it kind of blew me away. We were supposed to be trying to help this area of the state, and this is what our lenders, are telling us. So I made sure that happened. Attended a meeting with Senator Hickenlooper at the Safety Center with all representatives from Rio Blanco, Garfield County, Moffett County. Who else was there? The fire district and myself, talking about forest mitigation for wildland fire. Really a hot topic right now. One of the biggest subjects, and Rio Blanco was right there with it. Don't go back and rehabilitate these burn scar areas. Leave about, a half mile, fire break in between these burn scars. Because, if you go back in there and replant and rehabilitate it, 3 to 5 years down the road, then you have fuel for more fires. So, that's what they will try to do on BLM land. He didn't talk about much more than, he wanted to hear what the agencies was doing. Rio Blanco, commissioner from Rio Blanco was there. Get pretty frank discussions with the senator and the amount of help they had. And really, it said the state kind of tried to overwhelm them all at once. So they had a lot of help, and they needed it at the time. Fire board meeting I attended, we had an update on the 13th Street fire 2 weeks ago, I guess it was now. Cause and origin, we have a area of origin of the fire, but due to the extensive damage to the origin house or structure, the exact cause is harder to determine. The Division of Fire Prevention and Control is conducting that investigation on the origin of that fire since it was so close to so many residents. I think all the fire, most 99% of the smoke is gone now, so the fire totally out. Had a report on the Remington Village apartment cause. It was started in the end apartment and was either the microwave or a candle on the microwave. And due to the age of that building, there were no fire stops in the attic. Once it got in the attic, that's why that top floor is completely gone. So, just due to the age. Attended the first football game. Have to commend the grounds crew first. The Bulldog out in the middle of the 50-yard line was spectacular. The field looked great. The team did a great job. They got down a little bit in the first half, couldn't come back 100%, but they almost that close to winning that game in the second half. And JFK, the school they played, had some pretty big boys on the line. So I commend the football team for a great job. Yesterday, I attended the Moffett County School Board meeting. We introduced the Moffett Economic Development Authority to them, asking if they wanted to appoint a representative to the board. So of the 5 board members that our formation agreement has, 2 are city appointed, 2 are county appointed, and we offered to the school district, since they have the largest mill levy in the county, to appoint a position. Commissioner Boyer did a good presentation on the META, the authority, and the school district will get back in with their appointment. Tonight we will discuss our appointment as well. I attended the commissioners meeting today, and they had a couple action items. They appointed appointment to the Hamilton Community Center Board. Jeff Comstock presented the META to the county commissioners, and they appointed their 2 representatives. Dave Fleming, we know from Yampa Valley Bank, retired, 1-year term. Tony and Commissioner Boyer for a 3-year term. This next year on the Meadows, why we want to hit the ground running, is we have to really get an RFP out for our financial advisor. Hopefully, we have a check from the Tri-State sometime in the first quarter that we need bank accounts established, and that we have an investment policy. We don't have an investment advisor. Banks, which banks we're going to use. So this is all what that legwork will do to get that taken care of. Office of Emergency Management, Todd Wheeler. Maybell Ambulance, if you know, Maybell has the largest square mile district within Moffett County to provide emergency services in. So their ambulance is having some mechanical problems. And if everybody knew, there was a Moffett County by a grant, had funded or purchased a reserve ambulance that used to go out to all the special events, like football games and other rodeos and everything else. Well, they've had a hard time with volunteers keeping the reserve ambulance staffed and running. So Todd Wheeler recommended giving the ambulance to Maybell. They met all their grant requirements on time that they had to keep the ambulance. So it wasn't an issue with that, because since they bought it with grant money, and it was approved. So Maybell has a 2017 ambulance now, much better shape than what they had. Office of Development Services, Neil Binder, they approved exterior painting of the Public Safety Center for $39,750. Presented a sole source bid recommendation for the irrigation system of Lottie Simpson. And this is just the design of the irrigation system, and they approved $25,000 for that. And that's about all I have. Any questions around the whole council? Anything was presented? Hearing none, let's move on. Public comment. Let me start out public comment by saying, if you're here to speak about the Meadows apartment complex, save your comments until the public hearing. That way they'll be recorded as part of the public hearing. Anybody else that wants to come to speak before council, you're going to have each speaker is allotted 3 minutes. Timekeeper is Miss Financial Director Mindy Elliott. She will warn you when you have 30 seconds left. Speakers may not cede their time to another speaker. City Council can only act on matters that are on the agenda, but may place matters brought to their attention at this meeting on future agenda for consideration. So, with that said, who would like to come up and address council? Good evening. Janie, how many times did I email you today?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Janie Morley,
Welcome.
Taylor Street. First, I wanted to congratulate those of you that are serving. I know it's probably a real rough time to be in your seats, and I do appreciate the time that you invest. Several of you I've been on the phone with, sometimes for hours with questions that I had, and I do appreciate that investment as well. I do have a comment that I feel is important. A lot of times I see the cities starting the process of projects, but not enough information gets out to the public. The first question I have every time I see a project is, how will this be funded? And if I don't get that answer up front, I'm not willing to spend a whole lot of time considering that project. So I would like for you to start including that in your public information. We're also not getting that information from our paper. I've reached out to them. It's lacking. We need to know the how about these projects. I'm going to use is it Sports Center? I don't know what the name is this time. As a perfect example, before you send out a survey asking people what they want, and that survey doesn't have a place to write in your own answer, tell people how you intend to fund it. Because if people aren't willing to fund it, then why would you waste the city's resources and people's time collecting opinions? So please consider that in the future. And again, thank you for serving. Those of you that have signed back up, I guess for another beating, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jane. Next up, anybody else? Going once, going twice. Public comment is over. Let's move to item 7, public hearing. So tonight on the public hearing, we'll first have staff present the project in detail. Council, feel free to ask all questions during any part of this process. After staff, do we have the developers? Are online or? Okay, they're on Zoom. Then the developers, if they have anything else to add about the project, they'll be up next to speak. Again, feel free to ask questions. Then at that point, I will open up the actual public comment where you come up, state your name, your address, and you will have 3 minutes as well to speak your either for or against this project as well. Mindy Elliott will be the timekeeper. She will give you a 30-second notice of time remaining. So with that said, Marlon Eckhoff, building official Marlon Eckhoff, to introduce the Meadows Apartments site plan, Meadowwood Lot 2, located at 235 Mack Lane. Mr. Eckhoff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'll start by introducing the folks online there. So representing the development team is David Dragoo, Heidi Dragoo, and Jevin Poston with SGM Engineering. We also have Skip Hudson online. He's the traffic engineer with Turnkey Consulting. He completed the traffic assessment that's in your county or in your council packet. And so I'll start off by going through the memo, hitting the land use code criteria, and then we'll have David Dragoo do his presentation, and then we'll hear from Skip Hudson on his overview of his assessment for the traffic. So that's kind of the steps we'll take there. Site plan submittals, these are basically just to ensure that these meet our land use code requirements that we've adopted for any type of particular development. So that's kind of what we're looking at here tonight. So the proposed development, do you have that? Kind of scroll as we go here a little bit, but the proposed development is on you go down to sheet 10 maybe. Let's see there. Oh, back up. Right there. It's kind of a basic idea there. So the proposed development will be on a 5-acre site and consist of 4 buildings, each being 3 stories in height and having 24 units per building. The 96 units include 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. Smallest unit being 435 square feet, largest unit being just under 1,000 square feet. Our land use code requires a minimum of 220 square feet is all for multifamily apartments, so we're obviously meet that requirement. As far as zoning goes, the site's zoned light industrial, which the light industrial zone does allow for multifamily dwellings with up to 24 units per dwelling with a maximum building height of 50 feet. To ensure my interpretation of that, the way the land use code is written out, I did consult last year with Alex Gano, our city's real estate attorney, to confirm that. He did confirm that he believed my interpretation was correct, and that the light industrial zone does meet the requirements for multifamily dwellings without any kind of change in zoning. So you guys have an email there with that response from him that's in your packet. So as far as the zoning districts, just so you kind of have an idea, to the north of this property is light industrial, to the east is residential mobile home, to the south is light industrial and residential mobile home, and then to the west is light industrial and residential high density. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's around there as far as zoning possibilities. The existing land uses that surround the property site are to the north, there's a single-family residence and vacant lot. To the east and south, there's 168 manufactured home lots and 2 single-family homes on larger lots. And then to the west, there's 2 single-family homes on lots and then 1 multifamily fourplex. So in your packet, I included a zone map and kind of Google Earth, so you kind of have a feel for what's the surrounding property there. As far as density standards, our current land use code does not have a density standard per se for multifamily. However, they must designate a minimum of 15% of the gross land area to functional open space, and we'll get to that a little later in the memo as well. I have researched a considerable amount of other municipalities that are similar to ours as far as size and demographic. Most allow at the very minimum 20 to 25 units per acre for 2- and 3-story multifamilies. Obviously, this falls less than that. Just for reference, Steamboat allows 35 to 45% of the lot to be covered. This project covers about 13%, so that gives you a feel. So it's not overly dense as far as compared to other communities. As far as building setbacks, front yard setbacks 25 feet, The closest building they're proposing is at 150 feet. The sides, we require 10 feet. They're at 75 feet. Rear's 15 feet. They're proposing 100 feet to the nearest building. So all the setbacks obviously are considerably more to kind of create a little bit of a buffer zone between them and surrounding properties. So as far as parking, I know originally we talked about if they were going to have to apply for any parking variance. They are not. It's required to have 2 off-street parking spaces per unit, which is what our current code states. That would be 192 spaces. They are including 197 off-street spaces, so they're exceeding our minimum by 5 spaces. They're also proposing 7 off-street parking spaces near the transit center, which I didn't include in their count because those will be designated just for the transit center for people that aren't on site. As you can see in the memo, it meets all our handicap accessible parking spaces or exceeds those as well. All the spaces are 9 foot by 18 feet, which complies with our parking dimensions for 90-degree parking. Code also requires 24 feet minimum space between the parking spaces for a 2-way drive aisle. They're proposing a 25-foot space, so that exceeds slightly our land use code. There's going to be 2 entrances to the site, one along the north portion of the property and one along the south end. The one along the north will allow left and right-hand turns in and out. And then the one on the south will only allow right-hand turns in and right-hand turns out, mainly just because it doesn't line directly with West 2nd Street going into Woodbury Park, so we didn't want to conflict there. That's some of what's in Skip Hudson's report as well and his recommendations also. So, and of course, everything will be hard surface per our land use code. The required landscaping for multifamily development is 15% of the gross lot size, that's what our outline, my outline in your memo is based on. I didn't include the building footprint reduction, so it's based on the gross lot size. Landscape area, based on the landscape area at 15%, it would require 32,700 square foot of landscaping plus 12 square foot for each parking space, so a total of a little over 35,000 square feet. They're proposing 78,000 square foot of landscaping, again exceeding our minimum standards. The proposed landscaping also meets the additional requirements there as far as at least 25% of the lot frontage being landscaped to a depth of 15 feet. They're proposing over 50% of it being landscaped on the street frontage. And then you have to have a minimum of 5-foot landscaped area to separate a parking lot from any property line. They're proposing a minimum of 15 feet buffer area. So trees are required an amount of 2 trees per 1,000 square foot of required landscaping. In total, that would be 66 site trees plus 41 parking lot trees for a total of 107. They're proposing a total of 226 trees on the site currently. Again, there's additional requirements. No one species would make up more than 25% of the total non-grass plant material, and there must be at least 1 tree in each landscape parking lot. So they have that. They have that as well. Later, we can look at the landscape plan if we'd like as well. So shrubs, they're required 3 shrubs per every 1,000 square foot of landscaping area, plus 1 per every 150 square foot of parking lot landscaping. So in all total, they would be required to have 124 shrubs. They're actually proposing 621. However, I think there was a little discrepancy in the way they interpreted our land use code. So I think staff will want to just review a finalized landscape plan prior to them starting this, that we can see what numbers they completely come up with as far as shrubs and that sort of thing go. Just so we're kind of water conscious and maintenance friendly and still look good as well. So utilities, the water and sewer, they're installing a 6-inch water main that'll loop through the property. It'll connect to the existing water main in Mac Lane in 2 locations, one at the north drive aisle and one at the south drive aisle. There's going to be 3 new fire hydrants installed on the site, one on the north, south, and east side of the parking areas. New 8-inch sewer main will tie into the existing sewer main that runs in Mac Lane. The new main will connect to the existing one in location near the south end of the development. Carl Ray, the Water and Wastewater Director, along with SGM engineers, evaluated the existing system to ensure that the water and sewer both could handle the increased demand from the development. SGM used current modeling and flow data along with the estimated demand of the project and concluded that the existing water and sewer system has the capacity to support the development. And so I've included without any additional improvements to any of the existing infrastructure for the city. So I've included a will serve letter from Carl that he was supplied to the developer, just stating that. So as far as other utilities, electric and gas, electric service will be provided from the east end of the property along Mac Lane. I've included will serve letters for both Yampa Valley Electric and Atmos Energy. They are proposing this complex, though, to be all electric, so they may not be installing any gas from Atmos anyhow, but it is available if they need to. Storm drainage, so all the site drainage from the rooftops, parking lots, other hard surfaces will be captured on site and run to catch basins that are piped to a detention area before exiting the storm sewer system into Mac Lane. So the large detention area will serve to both limit the increased demand on the storm sewer during the heavy rain events and to collect any on-site debris, oil, grease, and other contaminants prior to it leaving the site. SGM submitted a complete drainage report, which we have, but it's 223 pages, so didn't figure you guys needed that reading material. But Danny can speak to it if need be too. If you have any questions related to that, he reviewed the drainage report as well on that. So. Fire department access, I've had Chris Mercer, our local fire chief, and Corey Schreiner. He acts as our third-party fire marshal. Chris Mercer's given approval of the site plan for fire department access. I've included a short letter from him just saying he is fine with that as far as being able to access the site for drive aisle widths, location of fire hydrants, and that sort of thing. So. And Corey Schreiner's also given approval of the site plan based on the International Fire Code and the NFPA requirements. Obviously, they'll both look at final construction docs for details once we get fire lines and once they get fire lines and that sort of thing designed. But architecturally, the 4 apartment buildings will all be similar in appearance and size. Each one will be 3 stories in height, with each one being approximately 7,500 square feet. The land use code has a maximum building height requirement of no more than 50 feet. The overall height of each building will be 42 foot, just over 42 foot, which complies with their code. The exterior of each building will have architectural breakup by means of texture and color transition, stepping of the wall plane, etc. These will occur at intervals of no more than 50 feet in order to comply with our blank wall standards that we have in our land use code, just so we don't have large warehouse style walls. The exterior finishes will consist of a mixture of horizontal and board and batten siding, cultured stone veneer, metal awnings, and architectural shingles. David's presentation, when he gets to it here in a moment, actually has some updated conceptual drawings that are quite a bit better than what you guys have in your plan as well. So you'll be seeing those in a moment. As far as trash removal, there's going to be 3 dumpsters provided for trash collection. Shown on the plans, there's one about in the center of the north part of the property, one on the east part of the property, and then one on the south part of the property there. And they're all, they'll all be in 12 foot deep by 18 foot wide with 16 foot tall sidewalls, a split CMU block, and painted steel doors for a dumpster enclosure that is required to screen them from view. So, and the way they're laid out, they should be easy enough to get garbage trucks in and out of. So, as far as lighting on the perimeter of the property, there'll be downturn area lighting. You have a kind of example of it in your one of the pages there in your packet. So downturn lighting around the perimeter. That way we're not unnecessarily polluting surrounding properties or the night sky with unwanted light there. So there's pole lights in all the parking areas along with wall-mounted fixtures on the exterior of all 4 of the buildings for security lighting. So as far as amenities, this kind of gets to that 15% functional open space. They're proposing a playground area which is kind of on the southeast portion, right there, yeah, where her cursor is. There's a little bit of a concept design too in your guys' packet, kind of shows kind of what they're intending for a little playground area, which would be good for younger kids and that sort of thing there. And then they'll have a centrally located amenity area with a fire feature, table and chairs and lighting and that sort of thing. They'll also have 2 separate gazebos. One will be near the transit center, there by the parking, yeah. They'll also have a large sodded area there, kind of be like a small park. Then they also have another gazebo over on the east side of the playground area. With all of that, that's about 8,500 square foot, but then there's also 30,000 square feet plus of landscaped grass area that would basically qualify for usable open space and functional open space. And so I believe that meets the 15% minimum requirement. And sidewalks, there'll be a minimum 5-foot wide sidewalk along Mac Lane. That obviously will go across each drive aisle and circumvent around the pullover for the transit station that we'll get to here in just a minute. There's also sidewalks on the north and the south that lead from Mac Lane that go all the way through the complexes there, and those all meet our land use code for sidewalks and trails. Fencing, they're proposing to fence the north side of the property, about 626 feet there, in a 6-foot privacy fence. We don't have an example of that yet, but they're doing a 6-foot privacy fence to help keep foot traffic from going in that direction. All except for the last 25 feet, which they'll have to step down just for visibility there at Mac Lane. Signage, they're proposing a 2-foot by 8-foot monument sign and a 2-foot by 5-foot monument sign near the entrances and exits of the property there. Those, we haven't got a final design on those, but those definitely are under the minimum requirements for our signage as far as location and size and that sort of thing. The transit center. So they'll also be including a multimodal transit center, which is along Mac Lane. Pretty much it'll consist of a large pull-out area for the bus to get off of Mac Lane while loading and unloading. They'll also have a small shelter that's just pretty similar to what we have at the Yampa building. It's be pretty low maintenance and still be shelter for passengers. And then they'll have 7 parking spaces on their own designated little parking area for that transit center. And this is already a bus stop currently, so that's where the bus stops already. Crosswalk, if you look at the bottom left-hand side, just a little lower on your cursor there, a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. Right there, yeah. There's a little crosswalk that's going to be go over to the south. They're proposing to go over to the south side of the entrance into Woodbury Park. So they're going to have that striped accordingly. Danny's worked with them on that, and to get they're going to have a light installed on the west side of Mac Lane as well, so that'll be lit. This was kind of some of the requirements we'd worked with Skip Hudson a little bit on too, with some of his recommendations on what would be good to have go across there for a crosswalk between there and Woodbury. Traffic impact. Obviously, traffic was one of the largest concerns for the site, so we wanted a pretty critical eye on that. And here shortly, you'll hear from Skip Hudson, and you have his traffic assessment in there. He's done 2 traffic assessments, one for summertime traffic and one for October-ish traffic after school's in. So he'll present his kind of conclusions and recommendations on that here shortly, and he can cover the details of that. So it's about it for the land use code requirements. Letters along with the site plan were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the property. The property was posted, legal notice was published in the paper with the meeting dates, contact information, everything meeting our land use code requirements for posting. I have included in your packet a petition that was received back in July of 2024, so a little over a year ago. That's when this process kind of started. It wasn't for this particular site plan, but it was for the same proposed apartments at the same location. So I did include that. I also included 3 emails that I also presented to Planning and Zoning Commission, the one from John Williams and one from Bettina Magus. They were opposed to the project, mainly due to traffic concerns, and both of them had concerns about it being a city-funded project. So there was a little disinformation there possibly. And then one from David Rohrer, who was in favor of the project, one of the surrounding property owners. And so, let's see here. So our staff recommendation to Planning and Zoning would be to recommend, this was prior to the Planning and Zoning meeting, we recommended to City Council to approve the site plan for the Meadows apartment complex with a couple of conditions. Prior to a building permit, the developer shall dedicate all necessary public easements for any public infrastructure outside of the city right-of-way. And then that we get that staff receives a stamped landscape plan with details of locations and irrigation, just to make sure that it's meeting the minimums for our land use code requirements. So this went to the Planning Commission last Monday, the 18th, and they reviewed it. They voted unanimously to recommend to City Council to approve the site plan for the 96 apartments on Mack Lane with those 2 following conditions that I had listed on there. So that somewhat wraps up my presentation here. I don't know if you'd like to have questions of me first, and then we'll go to
Might as well, yeah.
yeah. So I know that was a lot quickly, so if we can go back and hit on any of those that you guys might want to hit on.
Council, questions for Marlon? We can always come back if something jogs your memory. Hearing none, let's go.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'll introduce Dave and Heidi Dragoo here, and like I said, they have a Jevon from SGM as well. So David, let's hear it.
Great. We'll just do a quick sound check. Can you hear me okay there?
We can hear you good.
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, good evening, council members and community members. I'm David Dragoo, and I'm with the applicant Meadowood Apartments. And I thought Marlon did a great job with his presentation. I'll give you guys a shorter 5 to 7 minute overview and a little bit of the history of the project. And hopefully you can see my screen. Can you see one of the elevations of the project here on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this image is looking as you come into the north entrance, southeast. So the grass in the front is part of the detention pond and open space area, and then you'll see building number 1 right in front of you. I thought Marlon did a good job of describing it, and I'll just point out a couple things in these lower left-hand corner. You can see my mouse moving. Those are the gear closets that we propose. So hopefully this will be a pretty nice amenity-rich facility, and we're looking forward to getting started. So just a quick background on us and our team. We've got a couple members of our team on the phone I'd like to introduce too. So our team at the top, so we're a family real estate business. We're headquartered in Montrose, Colorado. So we are right in the center of really where all of our work takes place, which is primarily rural Colorado. So we work from Moffett County all the way down to La Plata County and Archuleta County, which is the Durango area. We're a 3rd generation, and as I said, we are headquartered in Montrose. And so, for Meadows, I think our team is excellent. We've got SGM, they're our civil, and we've got Jevon Poston on the line. Jevon's our civil and site team leader. They're based out of Glenwood. We have Way Architects, and on the call, I also got Doug Fullen. He's a longtime architect we've worked with. They're based out of Colorado Springs. And we've also got Norris Design. They're our landscape architects. They're Fort Collins in Denver. And then finally, Shaw Construction. They're our contractor based out of Grand Junction. And I think the key with this team is they've really got extensive experience delivering high quality multifamily housing projects. And they really understand the dynamics of working in these towns. And so I think that's the key. So Marlon did a great job covering it. I'm just going to fill in a couple of details on the site plan. So it's been about 2 years in the making for the site plan. As y'all know, we originally started with 120 units. And based on some public feedback, we reduced it to 96. So this site, as you see, has 96. Lots of parking spaces, as Marlon mentioned, about 2 spaces per unit, plus the transit center, which is in this area right here. We've got tons of open space. I think the code allows about 15%. We're close to 30%. And I think most importantly, we're not asking for any variances. So, from the land use code. I did get a couple of questions that I'll try to tackle briefly. There is a 30-year deed restriction on these for the area median income or AMI ranges, which go from 80% to 140%. And I think one person that I was told, asked the question, will this revert back to low income? And the answer is no. After the 30-year deed restriction, it reverts back to a market rate project. And just a few pointers on this slide, so nothing too fancy. So again, 96 units of middle income housing, and that's that 80 to 140 range that I mentioned. Shannon, you didn't correct me last time, so I think this is correct when I say it's close to the newest project in about 40 years. I can't see your face if you're nodding, but hopefully you're nodding. And as I said, what's important to our projects is really the open space, usability of it. So we've got a lot of that. I think too, it also complements some of the amenities that are at Woodbury Park. So our playground equipment is different and complementary to what's across the street. That transit center is important. I think the goal is to integrate it with the route currently running around the city of Craig and then up to Routt County. I did get this question a lot. This is a privately owned project, privately owned lot. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're not requesting any variances at this point. And we're really following what is our in-place agreement that the city council and the housing authority previously agreed to about a year ago now. It's been about a year since we signed that. So, and for those in the audience that want to get a hold of me, here's my email address. We do answer every email, so if you have a question, feel free to do that. I've got my cell phone in my email address too. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Marlon.
Thank you, David. Now we have Skip Hudson here.
Let me, council, questions for the Dragoos?
No.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. And David, thank you for submitting a project that meets or exceeds every one of our development standards. And, so many times people are asking for concessions, which you're not. So thank you. Go ahead, Marlon.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right. So now we have Skip Hudson on here. He can go over his assessment and his credentials, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Well, thank you for having the team here tonight to talk about this project. I agree with the last statement. It's a quality project, and I'm familiar with the Meadowood team, and they say what they're going to do and they do what they say. So it's a good group. I'm going to do a little bit different presentation than I did at the Planning Commission meeting. I think it's important that the council has the information at hand to understand the traffic situation as I see it. As was mentioned, most of the comments were traffic related, and I may not have a chance to respond to those, so I'm kind of responding ahead of time based on what I heard before. I'm going to talk big picture first. So in traffic safety, we talk about 3 E's, and it's engineering, education, and enforcement. So for example, a speed limit on a road could be based on an engineering study where there's a recommendation, and the recommendation gets posted as educational on a sign out on the roadway for letting the public know what that speed is. And then the 30 is the enforcement, where if people know the speed and they're violating it, then they could be ticketed. So you're going to hear a lot of things tonight that are problematic, and speeding and parking problems are not good, but it's not really within the realm of this project to respond to some other problems that may be occurring if they are happening. So, I bring to this discussion 40 years of experience, which means I've been around long enough where I come up with a projection of what's going to happen. It gets built, and then I can see what happened. That experience allows me to validate the approaches I use and the data I use in this analysis. And the whole study was done based on an industry standard approach. So some are going to disagree with my findings, and that's fine. They have a right to do so. It would be great if they brought some data to back that up. If they say there's some speeding problems, it's a simple matter to get a speed gun and measure the speeds. The city did that, and I'll present some of that data in a minute. So there's going to be my opinion and then some public opinion that'll be the opposite end of the spectrum. But the only thing that matters is really your opinion and your experience, because I'm sure you've done your due diligence and you've gone out and looked at the Mac Lane and looked at the project, and you know how it actually operates. And that's really the most important part. So another thing that'll come up is designing for special events and special needs. And in traffic engineering, like other engineering fields, you don't design a pipe to carry a 100-year storm event because you could never afford to buy pipe that would accommodate all that. It's the same thing in roadways. We design for a typical weekday condition, but unlike drainage, we do design for the peak hour of the day, usually in the morning or afternoon rush hour, people going to work and from work, and during the peak season. And in this case, there was some question about when is the peak season, and we in the city counted traffic on Mac Lane and speeds in the summer and the fall. And I'll get into some details of that in a minute. But it wouldn't be appropriate to design the roads in Craig for I-70 closures. Those do happen. When they happen, they can be messy, but they come and they go. Same things for extra large events at the park. You wouldn't want to design the road to accommodate that traffic that happens once a month or something like that. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. Can you see the table?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this was a speed study done on 6/24/2024. So this was kind of early summer period. And here's the speed ranges. And I want to point out that the biggest percentage of vehicles in a speed range, almost 29%, were less than 19 miles an hour. On the other end, over 40 miles an hour, up to 998 miles an hour. There was only less than 1% of the traffic was going over 40 miles an hour. Now, as traffic engineers, we don't design for either one of those conditions. We design something called the 85th percentile, which in this case was 30, which is it's pretty close match to the speed limit out there. So I'm just showing one day here. But in the report, you can find other days. They didn't just count one day. They collected this data on multiple days in the summer, like I said, in the fall. But this trend that you see in this table is represented on all the other days as well. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So this is the project. We've seen information on where this is. Now, this is the site plan concept. And there's the south access and the north access, with the south access offset from West 2nd Street. But one thing this version of the plan doesn't show is that turns would be restricted. Left turns would be restricted at the south access. There'd be what's called a pork chop, a triangle-shaped island out here that would force outbound traffic to make a right turn. And inbound traffic could come in. So it's a right in and a right out. You can't make left turns out because they would conflict with left turns out of 2nd Street. And you can't make what I call southbound left turns in. So is that a big deal? Not really, because the site's well designed with interconnectivity where people and there's really only one building. Building 4 is the only building that has parking along the south side that aligns with the south access. But all the other buildings, and even people that park here that want to make left turns here, can use the drive aisle, come up to the north access, and make their left turns. So they can do that here. That takes care of building 1. Building 2 is right in line with it already, so it's the shortest route. And building 3, at least half of them are it's just as close that way as anywhere else. So the site flexibility and interconnectedness allows vehicles to find the way that they need to not have to worry about being restricted for left turns here. So we talked about the summer counts, and we looked at the morning peak hour period and the afternoon peak hour period. And I've got theoretical maximum volume. And the reason is I had multiple days of counts. So I took the highest ever southbound volume and the highest ever northbound volume and came up with the total. That really wouldn't happen on one day, but I wanted to be conservative. So the rule of thumb is the highest count here is 513 vehicles an hour, both ways, northbound and southbound on Mac Lane. So then we did the fall counts, and we weren't able to get the morning, but we were able to get the afternoon, which was the peak hour in the summer. And you can see that the volumes are about half. We had over 500 before, and now we're close to 250. So the conclusion is the summer counts, were a lot higher, and we use those in the analysis. The summer counts did appear to capture traffic associated with events at Woodbury Park. So this is the same information here. So that's the volume, that's what's being used. And the next section talks about the capacity. So I noticed that I think all of you council members have a cup of water, some vessel on your desk that carries your beverage. If you were to fill that up all the way to the top, that would be at 100% capacity. Your cup is totally full. And the water inside that cup is the amount of traffic that's on the road in this case. So if you had as much traffic, if you filled your cup to the top, that would mean that the volume in there equals the capacity, or the volume to capacity ratio is 1.00. And obviously there's problems if you go past 1.00 or 100% capacity. If you put more volume in there, it spills over. And that's a similar way that we think about roadways and their capacity. So in this case, the capacity on Mac Lane is 970 vehicles an hour. And if you compare that to the count, and that's per lane, per direction. So if you compare that to the counts that we had, 355 was that highest count over 970, means that the volume to capacity ratio is 37%. That means your cup is 1/3 full with existing traffic, essentially, a little bit more than 1/3. So that means there's 63% of your cup left that would accommodate additional traffic in the future. So that was the existing condition, about 37%. And then I have to go in and figure out, we'll come back to capacity in a minute, but I first have to figure out how many project trips would be added to the existing counts that we made out there. The project trip generation estimates are based on an industry standard approach that's governed by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, who publish a database that includes actual counts at similar facilities all over the country. And then they plot that data and they come up with curves and generate trip rates. So if I know the number of dwelling units, I can use the software, plug it in, and it spits out the total project trip generation. So some people think the volume would be, all the parking spaces. The volume in and out would equal all the parking spaces. Well, we know that's not true because number one, 100% of the parking spaces are usually filled up. And number two, not all the cars parked there are going to travel in the peak hour. So in this case, the highest total was once again, that afternoon peak hour period, 31 in, 18 out, for a total of 49 vehicles an hour. This is considered a very low trip generation project. Many guidelines around the state and federal guidelines and even IT standards say that if you have less than 100 trips in the peak hour, it's probably not even worth doing a traffic study. And CDOT's the same. They do want to look at some things like turn lanes if it's less than 100, but it doesn't get into operational analysis or speed study. And then I got to figure out which way people are going, which direction, and we don't need to get into these details. But I use those details to evaluate the need for turn lanes. And I use CDOT criteria for this. And in this table, a southbound left turn lane, if you're coming from town heading south and want to turn left, you need to have 25 vehicles an hour doing that. This project would have 10. A northbound right turn, if you're coming from the south and heading north and want to make a right turn, you need 50 vehicles an hour, and we have 6. So turn lanes wouldn't be warranted even if we used traffic used all one project access, the north project access. So I have a comment in here that even though turn lanes wouldn't be warranted, the city could restripe Mac Lane as a 3-lane section. And that means a northbound through lane, a southbound through lane, and a center median that acts like a 2-way left turn lane, and it could be striped as a dedicated turn lane. There was a misperception that I was talking about widening Mac Lane, and I'm not, to clarify. What I'm saying is Mac Lane could be restriped and keep the existing curb lines and make a 3-lane roadway if the city chose to do so sometime in the future. And what that would allow might be something like this. So here's West 2nd Street. Here's a south access. This sketch happens to show a southbound left turn lane, which doesn't match, a right in, right out configuration. So this could go away. But these are actual lane widths. You could do that within the existing curb line and even provide a northbound left turn lane into the park. The sidewalk or the crosswalk is proposed down here south of 2nd Street. But if you wanted to provide a little refuge area, that crosswalk could be here with an area out in the middle. And if you really wanted to enforce something like this, you could make this a raised island where, people standing in the middle here would feel safer inside, some curb and gutter and some concrete infrastructure. So the city's got different alternatives to consider if indeed something outside what I'm seeing actually would happen. That's turn lanes. Let's go back to that capacity thing. When I add the project traffic to the existing traffic in each direction, the highest number I get is 386 divided by the same capacity of 970 means now the volume to capacity ratio is 40%. So the existing traffic takes up 37% of the cup. Project traffic takes up 3% of the cup for a total of 40%. And that leaves 60% of the capacity left unused. So in summary, Mac Lane can easily accommodate project trips and existing traffic. Even if existing traffic were to double from what it is now, it still would be within an acceptable volume and capacity ratio, which is a way to look at this from a sensitivity analysis perspective. Assuming some of our assumptions were wrong, what would happen if they were wrong? I don't see any big impact to that. We talked about the access intersection configurations, and there's that same sketch again. Intersection site distance evaluation. I looked at both driveways and things were good except for one direction. If you're at the south access, looking south, there's a wood fence along the frontage of the property, but that can be mitigated because I think somebody said at the last meeting that that fence is on the right of way and it could be relocated back onto private property. Bicycle and pedestrians or considerations. I do want to mention that when we're talking about the transit center, I did not assume any trips from this project would use the transit facility. I assumed 100% of them would be in cars. And the bottom line is that's an overstatement. It's not correct because certainly some people in these apartments would go to the bus stop and use the transit facility. And in addition, to a certain degree, having 7 parking spaces for the transit facility on site could take some existing traffic off of Mac Lane if people chose to use the transit option. So I looked at different sidewalk configurations, and we're not going to get into this now, but on West Second Street, I also looked at Mac Lane, all the way from Victory Way down south, and there's definitely options for active transportation facilities on Mac Lane. So conclusions, the summer traffic volumes were much higher. Existing traffic using 37% of the capacity. Project would be a very low volume trip generating project. Turn lanes on Mac Lane would not be necessary. When you add the project traffic to background, you get 40% of the Mac Lane capacity, so there's plenty of capacity there. There is some level of conflict at Mac Lane in the south access, or I'm sorry, West Second Street in the south access. And there's different options that we talked about for the city to consider to effectively mitigate any possible vehicle conflicts. Site distance is good in 3 or 4 cases, but could be mitigated in the one case that it's not. And then there was a recommendation for the bike and ped facilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Skip.
Anybody else on the
I
architectural?
think that's it for the presentation there, so.
Okay, staff's done. Council, questions from the traffic survey? A lot of information. Seeing none, hearing none, then comment period. Please come up to the mic, state your name, address, speak up for or against. You have 3 minutes. Finance Director Mindy Elliott will be the timer and warn you when you have 30 seconds. With that said, welcome. Good evening, Joanna. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good.
My name is Joanne Roberson. I live at Mac Lane. I might not have another chance to say anything about the Meadowwoods complex. And I was here for the Zoning and Planning Commission approved the builder's plans last week. And in my opinion, the traffic studies did not represent the reality of it all. I mean, if you live there, you saw it, you see what happens, it's a whole nother story. We see what you don't see, but the homeowners do. Lots of cars, trucks, 18-wheelers, motorcycles, 4-wheelers, and razors going up and down the street all hours of the day and night, speeding and racing. It's very dangerous for pedestrians, especially kids, and we've seen some near accidents. Someone is going to get hurt or worse. Now add new residents that will be living in the apartments. Instead of calling it Mac Lane, maybe we should start calling it Mac Highway. I understand the city is not building these apartments, but you sure are helping out the builder. With the $2 million grant you're going to be using to fix make the infrastructure work, also giving them a 50% break on the water and sewer tap fees. You don't do that for other citizens in Craig. I don't see why you did that for them. They don't live here, we do. So how much of the grant has been spent to help Dragoo's build? I think you owe the taxpayers an itemized list of the expenditures. After all, the grants are generated by taxpayers, and that's us. I sure wish that City Craig and builders would have contacted all of us that live on Mac Lane before this ever started and the surrounding area and asked us for our input and concerns with this project. That would have been the right thing to do, but you never gave us a voice. To tell you the truth, I don't think this project was investigated thoroughly enough and properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, please. Good evening again.
Hello again, Janie Morley, Taylor Street. Although this project appears to meet or exceed all of the city's requirements, kind of seems like we're plopping a monstrosity down in a neighborhood. It's not a good fit. But I also feel that the 8th Street townhomes are not a good fit either. That's a historic neighborhood. They don't fit in the neighborhood. I don't feel this is a good fit for where it's proposed to be set. But it's mainly because you've got this big looming buildings, and the rest of Craig is really not built that way. We have some, like behind the mall, and we have some out towards the hotels. I don't understand why we're moving them into town. It's just visual for me. Also, my heart goes out to Joanne and her husband. I look at those parking spaces there. That's kind of a nice buffer. But I wonder in the winter, when everybody's idling their vehicles to warm them up to drive somewhere, what are they going to be smelling at their house? And that's not something they can control. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Kyle Miller. I'm with Memorial Regional Health. I'm their Chief Operating Officer. Tonight I'm here representing Memorial Health and offering our full support with the proposed multifamily development. As David shared earlier tonight, this development represents the first new construction project of its kind in Craig in over 30 years. One of the challenges healthcare has is affordable housing, and recruiting healthcare professionals to our region is really one of the biggest limitations. So we're challenged with this on a daily basis as it comes to recruiting not only just healthcare professionals, but our ancillary support staff and our allied staff that also provide care to patients in our community. A quick statistic, just how it impacts our hospital. At 80 to 100% of the area median income, approximately 35% of our workforce would qualify for this housing. If you look at our staffing, that would represent roughly 135 to 140 employees who would qualify for this housing. These would include vital team members such as our emergency medical services, our radiology technicians and staff, our patient access folks who register and schedule patients and procedures, our informatics and IT support, also our dietary, just to name a few. These are the individuals who ensure that emergency services are available 24/7, 365 to our community. They also are patients. These are also folks that register our patients safely and provide quality care during after hours and during the day and weekends, which also supports our hospital operations to remain strong, consistent, and provide quality care. By creating modern, affordable housing options, this development directly supports the stability of our healthcare workforce and in turn strengthens access to healthcare for the entire community. For these reasons, Memorial Regional Health is proud to voice our full support for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next up. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Harry Blakeman, Birch Street. A little bit ago, Mayor, you spoke about the wildfire meeting recently. I don't understand why in the community, City of Craig, we don't subscribe to FireWise and build a fire-safe community. The site plans show vegetation very close to the buildings. There's no 30-foot buffer like there is in FireWise. Apparently, we didn't learn anything from the fire at Subway 4th of July a year ago when the vegetation caught fire. Fortunately, there was no immediate exposures there. I see nothing in the plan about any of the trees being fire resistant as required in FireWise. So that's a big concern. The other thing is that the traffic study did not consider traffic on 3rd Street. And despite what the engineer says, it's going to be impacted. It's already a problem. Council approved the 4-way stop a year and a half ago at 3rd and Woodbury. There's a tree growing in front of that stop sign now when you're going eastbound. People blow that stop sign. If they're not from the neighborhood, they don't know it. Speed limit signs going westbound, there's only one, and that's right at Mac Lane. If you come out of Apple Street or Birch Street, you never see a speed limit sign. When the speed trailer's there, sure, people slow down. So I think anything with the speed trailer, particularly when it's there for more than one day at a time, people just automatically slow down. Those numbers the engineer gave, those are minimal compared to what it really is. The other thing is there's no sidewalks there. There's already a lot of foot traffic that goes from those 168 manufactured home spaces going back and forth to Walmart. You can see the paths in the snow in the wintertime. So when there's events at the park, and it's not once a month, it's like a couple of nights a week, especially Monday nights. People park every which way in that street. The other night, they were double parked on the south side of 3rd Street. Kids kick soccer balls out into 3rd Street because there's no fence to stop the balls if they miss the goal. And of course, the kids rush right out there. I didn't hear anything tonight about the $2.9 million grant money, so we don't know how that's going to work. And lastly, I'm wondering about mosquito treatment in the detention pond. Who's going to be responsible for that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Next up, your comment period. Going once, going twice. Okay, public hearing on the Meadowwood Lot 2, 235 Mac Lane is closed. Next item, we'll go to 8A, building official Marlon Neckoff to present for discussion and approval of the Meadows Apartment Site Plan, Meadowwood Lot 2, located at 235 Mac Lane. Marlon, I don't think you need to go through the whole thing again.
No.
Unless council has questions on anything that we have heard to this point, or anything else you would like to present.
Marlon, I just want to verify, and I asked this at P&Z, but obviously the 6-inch water main infrastructure, and you said there would be 3 new fire hydrants. That is within a city easement?
That'll be within a city easement, and part of the one condition that I have in your memo there that I would propose that Planning and Zoning also recommended is that, and Danny's been working with them closely to make sure that we have those easements in place prior to any building permits and that sort of thing. But we're hashing out those details based on some of that grant money, depending on what that gets accounted for there. So it will be, they show an easement on the site plan, a 25-foot easement, but we're going to make sure that those are all to where anything that we need access to, we have legal access to.
And so maintenance of those fire hydrants in the future will be responsibility of the city?
The maintenance will, or the easement, the easement will jog and catch those fire hydrants along with the water main, yes.
Yeah, we don't want any more privately owned, unmaintained fire hydrants. And
yeah.
So, thanks for bringing that up there. Any other questions for Marlon? I know this has been a long process. We've seen back and forth on this a good bit. I'm willing to entertain the motion.
I'll make a motion for approval of the site plan for the Meadowwoods Apartment, Lot 2, located at 235 Mac Lane.
Second.
Councilmember Looper made a motion to approve the site plan for 235 Mac Lane, second by Councilman Jackson. Discussion. Chief, what are you find and see on Mac Lane as far as traffic? And I guess 13 cars there over 50 miles an hour plus, and one thing, I think we remember the bad ones, but anything you can add to, I mean, do you see, or your officers report, do you write citations there?
We're very active with citations. As a matter of fact, on 3rd as well, we have officers that sit out there frequently and stop cars. And as was pointed out, when you see the speed trailer, sometimes they slow down. That's the reason we've started leaving it out for a week at a time, because sometimes then they get comfortable and don't slow down anymore. But you, council as well, we're aware.
Here. You know, this is what the study with the numbers provided by the city, and, you know, he's an expert. We are not. So if he says that's his finding, he worked with CDOT. I know we can keep discussing and say we don't agree, but the numbers are there. So, any other further discussion?
Well, I think it's important. We've been discussing this for 2 years, and it was brought up numerous times to do traffic studies, and we listened. You know, the numbers did surprise me, but as you mentioned, he's an engineer, so
right.
It's tough to debate that. But I think what's important is that we did 2 traffic studies because we heard that we needed to do that. So
correct. I again applaud the developer for exceeding, not just meeting, but exceeding standards, and nice looking project, with that being said. Any other discussion? Katie, will you poll the council?
Councilwoman Gotchel?
Yay.
Councilman Duran?
Aye.
Councilman Jackson?
Aye.
Councilman Looper?
Aye.
Councilwoman Camp?
Aye.
Councilman Tucker?
Nay.
Mayor Nichols?
Aye. Okay, 5-2. The site plan is approved. Item B. Let me get back here. Public Works Director Danny Paul to introduce for discussion and approval Resolution Number 24, a resolution of the City of Craig approving a proposal from Wilson Water Group for engineering support to prepare for the diligent filing on the California Park Reservoir water right and appropriating funds from the Water Fund Enterprise. Mr. Paul.
Good evening,
Good
Mayor.
evening.
Good evening, Council. I'm Danny Paul, your Public Works Director. I'm just going to turn it right over to Lisa Brown, who's our consultant doing this work. She works for Wilson Water Group, and she's been working on her water rights study and shoring up this right associated with the California Park water right to make it an absolute right. She's been working on this for quite some time now, I understand. And we're getting pretty close to finalizing her work, and so this appropriation is associated with the tasks she needs to do to complete that so we can finish our filing in November. So with that, Lisa, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to double check everyone can hear me okay?
Gotcha.
Perfect. All right. Well, given the hour, we will move through this presentation quickly, but thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to present tonight. My name is Lisa Brown with Wilson Water Group. We are a water resources firm located in Lakewood, Colorado, with an emphasis on water rights engineering support, which is what we're here to talk to you all about tonight. See if I can do next slide. Oops. All right. So for our presentation tonight, we'll go over a brief review of Wilson Water Group's efforts to date, an update on the California Park Reservoir water right, and then the contract amendment request. So our water rights analysis, a brief review. Wilson Water Group was hired by the city in 2022 to complete a water rights analysis. The goals of that analysis were to document the city's water rights portfolio, secure the city's water rights against any future challenges, and then analyze the ability of the city's water rights portfolios to meet future demands, and essentially set the city up for future success in the water resources realm. So let's start with the good news. We've had a lot of progress to date. We developed a new accounting form that tracks the diversions by water right. So this annual report was successfully submitted to the state in 2023 and 2024. We worked very closely with Carl Ray, with the city's water department, to make sure that everything is working smoothly. And then in 2024, we also incorporated the Yampa Valley Golf Course water rights and measurements into that same accounting form, so a comprehensive application to the state every year. We did a little bit of grant writing. We secured $10,000 from the Yampa White Green Basin Roundtable to fund a real-time stage measurement on Fortification Creek. That was one of the risks that was brought up in the water rights analysis that we did, so we have successfully taken care of that. We also completed a final report back in 2023, which contains the details of the water rights yield modeling. So this is essentially saying, does the city have enough water to supply the future demands, which we found a very positive result from. We also included some discussion for the Whitewater Park. Okay, so let's talk about some of the challenges facing the city at the moment. One of the risks that we identified in our review of the city's water rights was that in Elkhead Reservoir, the city holds one absolute water right, and this water right is essentially for in-reservoir uses. The history of that water right is that it was originally held by the Colorado, at the time, Department of Wildlife, and when a small version of Elkhead Reservoir was first constructed, it was used to fill the reservoir for recreation and wildlife purposes. The city also holds, good news, a conditional water right known as the California Park Reservoir water right. And this water right is a useful municipal supply. So the goal that we identified was that the city needed to continue in their progress of developing the California Park Reservoir water right. And in 2023, on behalf of the city, we started working with the River District to enhance the Elkhead Reservoir accounting spreadsheet in order to show that the city, was storing and using that California Park water right. Based on that version of the spreadsheet, we showed that the water right was stored in 2023 and 2024. So let's get to the challenges. Unfortunately, the state did not accept the upgraded Elkhead Reservoir accounting in either 2023 or 2024, which brings us to the kind of the crux at this time. We did have a very positive meeting with the state water officials on August 13th, and we discussed their concerns with the accounting. Why hadn't they been able to accept it previously? It was a very productive meeting, and we believe that we do have a clear path forward at this time. And we actually have been working with the River District since that August 13th meeting. We've had a couple of meetings with them to try and enhance the spreadsheet again to directly address the state's comments. So I'm feeling very optimistic about this. So the item for tonight's consideration is that under Colorado law, water users, anybody who holds a water right, must show progress toward developing their conditional water rights. So basically, at this point in time, we filed our spot in line, but we haven't been able to show that we've put the water right to use. And then you don't have to show that you've put it to use right away, but you do have to show progress toward putting it to use. And this is called diligence, and it's due every 6 years. So the California Park Reservoir water right diligence is due by the end of November, so we're coming up on that. The city is required to submit a report outlining the city's water rights portfolios, future demands, and how the city will prioritize using the California Park Reservoir water right. You might be thinking to yourself, this report sounds familiar. It sure does. So our contract amendment for today is basically the strategy that we're proposing is to meet the terms of the diligence, present the accounting that we are currently working on with the River District to show that the city has successfully stored the California Park water right, and then coordinate with Tri-State. The California Park water right was split into two. City of Craig owns some, Tri-State owns some. They're separate, but can potentially move forward in parallel. So we're proposing to coordinate with Tri-State, but still file separately. So the task that we would be undertaking with this contract amendment would be to write the required report. This would essentially be repackaging the 2023 final report. A lot of the groundwork has been previously laid, and so we are going to be picking up where we left off there and perform any additional analysis required in the previous diligence filing. Task 2 would be to support the absolute claim to finish beefing up those accounting forms to make sure that we're proving that we have successfully stored the California Park water right. and basically address all of those comments from the state before the November deadline. Task 3 is to review and coordinate. So we will be working closely with the city's outside counsel, so the water rights attorney that the city has available to assist with this effort, and then also coordinate with Tri-State to make sure that we are all pulling in the same direction. So this is the table I'm showing on the screen now is our requested budget to complete the work that I have outlined previously. And I think now is a good time to pause for any questions or comments and turn it back to Danny.
I don't have anything more to add to you, Peter. I think we'll turn it back to council for consideration of the resolution.
The only thing I have to say, it's, water rights are completely complex, and that's why there's attorneys involved and engineers and everything, and I think we have to demonstrate our diligence on here to protect our rights. I'm amazed they can take water rights if we, that we've acquired over the years through various means, because, but anyway, I think Councilmember Jackson will be right back before we take a vote. We'll delay that. So any other questions for Lisa or Danny?
The only thing I guess I'd add to kill a little time here, Lisa mentioned our water rights attorney is David Bauer, and I might screw this up, but he works for Johnson and Rapucci as our water rights attorney. He'll be assisting in this effort. We're going to pay for his services. It's a much smaller amount this year, and there's some budget in our legal department we're going to use for his services. The roles will kind of shift next year once we've made our filing and learn if there's been any opposition submitted on it. Depending on if we have or haven't, that'll dictate how much work David will have next year in 2026 to defend our filing.
Okay.
But the two of them work hand in hand, even though they aren't working for the same company. They're representing the city of Craig and protecting our water rights.
Thank you for filling space there. Councilmember Jackson has returned.
Thank you.
So, council, entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 24.
Second.
Councilwoman Gotchel made a motion to approve resolution number 24, seconded by Councilman Duran. Any discussion? It's important that we demonstrate our diligence and secure our water for the future. Any other? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Congratulations. Item C, City Manager Peter Brixis to present for discussion and approval Resolution Number 2025, a resolution submitting to the eligible electors of the City of Craig a ballot question for the formation of the Yampa Valley Regional Transportation Authority. So, Mr. Brixis, and you, and then Randy will fill in gaps since he's our rep.
What's in the packet. Randy's going to probably talk about some of the interesting news items that have shown up this week about the whole process.
From his 15.
So in your packet is a resolution 25 that allows the council to approve the intergovernmental agreement to form, this is the formation agreement for the Regional Transportation Authority. And it'll be, allows also to submit to eligible electors of the City of Craig a ballot question for the formation of the Yampa Valley Regional Transportation Authority. So there's several steps that took place to get to that point, which included public hearings that we had. We had 2 of those that were required for the process. Lots of local official, business, and employee input. This is also within your packet in Exhibit A is the complete IGA. And That is the final version of the IGA. If you've had a chance to look at that, that covers the formation process and how the board is organized. Randy sits on that board. Also, there's a donation pledge agreement that's included. And the ballot language is Exhibit B in your packet. So also included in the packet is the initial service goals, which include things like improved frequency of the buses on Highway 40 between Craig and Steamboat Springs, the establishment of a new circulator bus route within Craig, providing ground transportation to the Yampa Valley Regional Airport, which currently the SST does not get you to that point, improving existing bus stops, which we've been initiating some of these within our own process here, but once there is a formation, we hope to see, in addition to the circulator, improved bus stops throughout the community. I think, Randy, I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. Basically, what it's doing is allowing us to create the RTA. And it gives us a voice at the table. As if this is not, if we do decide not to move this forward or it is not passed either one, that means that more than likely it'll move forward without Craig having a say. So that's the number one most important part of this. In the last 2 weeks, it was brought up by a few of the formation committee members that they didn't feel that the commitment of Ski Corps was enough. Their verbal agreement that they would give us $1 million for 20 years was not as much as they would like. So that started a series of conversations back and forth that created this donation pledge agreement from Ski Corps, where they are guaranteeing $1 million for the first 3 years, 26, 27, and 28, if the formation occurs as of January 1st, 2026. In addition to that, there's another part that was added. By asking Ski Corps for more, it roused up the lift tax that City of Steamboat has been looking at. And that was supposed to be two separate issues, is one of the things we originally agreed to back in April and May. But because of that, it basically decided that the City Council and Steamboat brought up the possibility of putting the lift tax on the ballot. Part of this donation agreement and also part of your IGA, which is in Article 7, 7.01, and then A, goes over the pledge, again saying that they will do the $1 million for 3 years, $500,000 in January and $500,000 in August. But if the Steamboat City Council puts the lift tax on the ballot and that passes, then that makes this agreement and this donation pledge null and void, and puts on the Steamboat City Council the responsibility of taking care of that $1 million. At their last meeting, after lots of back and forth, there seemed to be a majority of the council agreed with that. They did not do anything official. But that's what this language says. So that's basically what we're looking at. And that's the only other change between the IGA we approved in April and then again in May, is that we did the change where instead of having Steamboat and Routt County having to pass it in order for this to pass, the way it's written now is that the city of Steamboat has to pass it, but it can be any other entity for that second area. So it can be Routt County, it can be Craig, it can be Hayden, Oak Creek, Yampa. If Steamboat and any one of those other entities pass it, then, and it passes by majority vote, then it moves forward. So that's, in a nutshell, what the last 2 weeks have been. Any questions?
So, Randy, if we put it to the voters to form the RTA.
To form the RTA.
And then we go back to the voters for funding.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if they vote not to fund it?
If it is moved forward by 50% plus one of the voters in that district, because it's now a district, it moves forward. So basically what it's doing, instead of Craig voting and Oak Creek and Yampa and everyone else, that district is voting as a whole. And that's what counts. So if 50 plus 1 passes it,
Out of all the communities.
out of all of the communities, it moves forward. And again, we don't know, there's a lot of grants out there, in addition to the steamboat money. There's a lot of other options. We'll definitely be coming for some type of tax. We just, at this point, we have no idea what that will be.
And we wouldn't have a say in what kind of tax it would be. It would have-
We
it would be
will by having that vote on the formation committee. Because who's gonna decide that is the RTA board.
But we'll have one vote.
We'll have one vote. And so will Hayden, and so will Oak Creek, and so will Yampa, and everyone will have one vote on this.
So this million a year by the ski corp,
Yes.
that's going to what, set up the legal?
Basically, to set up, paying the lawyers to set it up, paying to create job descriptions, paying to hopefully get us money to hire an executive director, to just move things forward at the same time as the committee is researching how we're gonna pay for this.
To what point will the existing Steamboat to Craig bus line be taken over by the authority and funded?
If it passes its formation, and if however it's gonna be paid for passes, within 3 years of that happening, we have to figure out a way to take it over from Steamboat Transit. And if it fails, either as formation or the money-wise, Steamboat Transit will continue doing what they do, which is the 3 trips in the morning and the 2 trips at night. And if it fails in Craig formation, but it still passes, we won't have a vote in what happens, but basically, the RTA will continue the 3 trips to Craig and 2 trips thing, but if they move forward and fund more trips, it'll be to Hayden. It will not be to Craig.
Even if majority of the people that use it live in Craig potentially.
Right. Well, it's a little bit uncomfortable that we're approving it before you do the financial impact.
It's something
Yeah.
we decided just to get formation, so we can get it up and started and trying to figure out. And part of that came in that originally we were looking at the only way to fund it was through a tax of some type. And then there's a lot of other ways to fund it that we didn't realize, and we didn't have the time to research what money is really out there, how much, for how long. And yeah, it was either separate them or put it off. And at this point, we didn't want to put it off.
Well, you read on social media, and just right before I came, there was, I don't know, 30-some comments about the trip today and how dangerous that road is, and, you know, the users of that highway. So, all right, any other questions for Peter or Randy on resolution number 25? Hearing none, council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I will move that we approve resolution number 25, 2025.
Second.
Councilwoman Camp made a motion to approve resolution number 25, 2025, second by Councilman Looper. Discussion.
I've got concerns, but I guess I don't mind sending it to the voters.
Correct.
But decide.
Correct. Yeah.
I agree as well. It's not something we're cramming down their throat. It's something that the electorate will make the determination on. I think the majority of the users are from Craig. But, what goes with it eventually down the road is the intercity circulator, which will be funding associated with that from the city. But something we need, is to help people get around town better, especially disabled seniors and, you know, the people that live out West Steamboat. So that'll be something we'll address later. So, with that said, Katie, will you poll council, please?
Councilwoman Gotchall?
Aye.
Councilman Duran?
Aye.
Councilman Jackson?
Aye.
Councilman Looper?
Aye.
Councilwoman Camp?
Aye.
Councilman Tucker?
Aye.
Mayor Nichols?
Aye. 7-0. Congratulations. Item D, Gary Roden.
Good evening, Council.
Yeah. Will then place a Heather Cannon to present second reading, ordinance 1167, 2025, ordinance of the City of Craig, Colorado, referring a question to the registered electors approving the imposition of a levy of an additional sales tax up to 4% on the sales of retail marijuana and marijuana products, and setting a ballot measure for November 4th, 2025 coordinated election. Now, Gary, welcome.
Thank you. This is page 92 of 185 in the packet. Ms. Cannon presented this back on the 12th of August, and there was some comment. It was tabled, so she went back and changed the ballot measure language on that particular page. On the first line after the word increased, she added and reviewed. So the tax will be increased and reviewed is the ballot language. And then down on the, I believe it's the 9th line of that ballot language, she added a phrase, a capped amount of up to 4. The old language, if everyone remembers, had of up to 4%, and there was some concern, so we closed the loop on that. So it is otherwise the same, except the ballot language has been changed in those two respects. Again, the first line added and reviewed, took out the up to, and added a capped amount of to, I guess, address those concerns.
So since this was tabled, do we need a motion to bring it up and then a motion to approve, right?
Yes, Mayor.
Questions? I think we cleared up the issues that were brought up during public hearing, I think, on the ordinance. So up to a max, up to 4%, and we'll review it annually.
I have a question on what your last comment was.
Up
Two
to-
motions?
What's
Two
that?
motions. Do we
Oh,
need a
two
motion?
motions? Yeah, so we tabled it last meeting.
Right.
So we need a motion to,
Untable it?
yeah, was that the right
Why?
wording?
I don't think.
To bring,
I don't think we do, but I wasn't sure.
yeah.
I think we just need one.
Well, the attorney says we do, but, so I
would just
followed
be
the
safe.
attorney.
Won't hurt.
Okay.
To make
Yeah.
a motion to untable it?
Yeah, to bring it up for discussion.
To bring it up for discussion. Okay.
That's what we pay him for, to keep us out of trouble.
That's good. I'll make a motion to untable second reading ordinance number 1167, 2025.
Second.
Councilmember Duran made a motion to bring up off the table ordinance number 1167, 2025, second by Councilmember Looper. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay. Now, let's present for second reading ordinance 1167, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1167, 2025, an ordinance for the city of Craig to question registered voters regarding approving imposition and levy of additional sales tax of up to 4%.
Second.
Councilmember Looper made a motion to approve ordinance 1167, second reading. Second by Councilwoman Gotchall. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 1167 is approved to take to the voters. Item E, City Manager Peter Brixis to present for discussion and approval Resolution number 23, 2025, a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property from Frontier Associated Properties, LLC, for the purpose of developing a business park and approving associated documents. Mr. Brixis.
Okay, thank you. This is something we've also been discussing for quite some time, is the acquisition of the 24.6 acres just north of First Street between Mac Lane and Ranny. In the first paragraph, I apologize, it looks like Ranny is spelled as Ramey, so we'll correct that in the final version before signature. But the pieces of documents, the documents that we're required to provide for this include a qualified appraisal, which was conducted by Arnie Butler and Associates in May of 2025. We also have a Alta survey, land title survey that was conducted by Epp and Associates. That was last year on the property. We also have an environmental review that's in the packet that was conducted by Avant Environmental Services. And we have also independently conducted Phase 1 investigation of the site, and we're just completing an archaeological study on the site, which is actually been completed, shown complete as of today. We also have funding from two grants from the Office of Just Transition totaling $1,331,000, which is 95% of the purchase price. Just under 5% is part of the allocation that, or the appropriation that we're asking for tonight of $69,518.50 to complete that transaction, which covers the closing costs for the property. We've also asked the owner to complete some weed mitigation at the property before we take possessions. And I think he's already started that process. There's a second grant that's been awarded by HUD, Housing and Urban Development, for totaling $2.5 million for the kind of the horizontal infrastructure planning and design, and that's part of what we have to complete with the archaeological study, and we have a tribal review that has to take place. We have about another 45 days to complete that process before that grant is free and clear. The city, as you know, we solicited contractors to act as a master planner for design and development of the business park. And that went through a committee process, and the final selection was the Antero Group. And so they would act as the master planner with the city's economic development objectives. Within your package, you have the legal description, you have the Alta survey, you have the Avant Environmental Services assessment. They look closely at that bulk storage plant for hydrocarbon contamination to the north of that property. And of course, the general direction of the plume, if there were contamination, would cross that 24.6 acres. And in their investigation, they found no contamination that was crossing that property line from that bulk water storage plant. And in fact, their hydrocarbon contamination is declining as a result of some of their remediation work on that north bulk, hydrocarbon, or that bulk oil storage plant to the north. Within the packet also is a title commitment and the settlement agreement. And should the council approve the acquisition, we'd need to finalize a purchase agreement with the owner, who's here tonight, Junior Kowchek, and with the conditions that I previously mentioned. Questions?
Council? Like you said, we've been talking about this a long time.
Mhm.
So no questions for Peter. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 23, 2025, authorizing the purchase of real property from Frontier Associated Properties.
Second.
Councilmember Looper made a motion to approve, second by Councilwoman Camp, resolution number 23, 2025. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's
Thank you, Council. Appreciate it.
now item F, Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present for discussion and approval of resolution number 2025, a resolution to appropriate funds in the general funds for the Craig Business Park purchase. Ms. Elliott.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So resolution number 20, as Peter alluded in his presentation on resolution number 25, we do have grant funding to cover the majority of the purchase. There's a gap of $69,518.50 that we need to appropriate to complete the purchase.
Questions? Council?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2025.
Second.
Councilwoman Gotchall made a motion to approve resolution 2025, second by Councilman Jackson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We got the money now. Item G, City Manager Peter Brixis to present for discussion and appointment of board members representing the City of Craig to the Moffett Economic Development Authority, MEDA. That's our new acronym.
So council has approved the MEDA, or the establishment agreement for this board. And our attorney, Parker Schenken, with Sherman, or Taft, Sherman, and Howard, is wanting us to finalize the appointment of board members from the county, from the city. So the county has two appointments. One, they are appointing a commissioner. And these are short-term appointments. They're 1 to 2 years. We're going to try to stagger the terms. So once those terms are up, there'll be 3-year terms after that. And so the county has two appointments, one at large and then one county commissioner or staff member. We have two appointments for a 5-person board. It can be a city councilman or staff member or someone at large. And a second appointment that could be a staff member or somebody at large. And then there's a fifth appointment that the school board has that they can make. And so tonight, we're asked to discuss, the council to discuss among yourselves who those appointments might be and to make a motion to make those appointments if you can tonight.
Council discussion?
With one of the appointments, I still would like someone from the hospital. And I'm not sure if that'd be Jennifer. We haven't really talked about it, but I really would like to have them have input on this.
Well, this initial appointments, and that's why the terms are short, are really going to have the bulk of their work is going to set up an RFP for financial advisor, open bank accounts. Well, first of all, decide where they want to open bank accounts, what accounts with advisors, what we're going to do with the money, and the actual structure. You know, the structure is pretty well laid out, but meetings, meeting times. So there's not going to be a lot of actual grant review to probably into the second year, because we do have that clause that no funds will be dispersed until we have $1 million in interest in the account. Along with that, I would recommend we look at Shannon Scott from the standpoint, I keep bringing her up, we've talked several times. Her previous life, she worked for an economic development agency that set up rules and grading criteria, you know, how they awarded, you know, their actual funds. And I think she has experience in that, and she could add to that, you know, pretty importantly. So I would recommend Shannon Scott to be one of our appointments. Now, Derek and I discussed it, and he said he would serve representing the council. You want the 1 year? 1 year?
I'll take the 1 year. No.
Or, see, the county appointed
And I-
the commissioner for 3 years today.
And I agree, I don't agree, but with Randy that, you know, I wasn't sure how this process was gonna work.
Yeah.
I know I had a community at large member, I guess, not from the hospital, but from Tri-State, express his interest in serving on the board. And so I couldn't tell him if there was an application process set up, and then we make the recommendation, or how it worked. I understand that the first year is mainly, like you said, setting up. We probably won't be listening to many grant requests. So, you know, I'm good either way. I can see why it could be beneficial if Shannon and a council member are involved for the first year. But I just think we should be transparent with the community that we do have an at-large potential seat and what that process would look like in the future to recommend them, and, you know, just like any other board we have.
I should have added, the commissioners, well, first of all, our attorney has asked us, we'll have a meeting, not Gary, but the establishment agreement, to have a meeting in early September. So that's why we're pushing early to have these first appointments done. And then additional appointments after these initial, we go through our normal nominating procedure. We take letters of interest and council interviews and appoints at that point. So this is kind of a little bit of rush, and we will follow, future councils should follow the letter of interest and nominate from those letters. So, is everybody kind of clear, and we're out in the open and transparent? Yeah. So this first one, like I said, could be for the 1 year. Shannon, we're gonna commit her to 3 year, I hope. Or 1 year, whatever, no.
So what are you thinking, Chris? A 1 year and a 2 year is
2
what
year.
you're thinking initially?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we would go.
Well,
through
Peter,
the
what does
process?
it say, initial appointments in the establishment agreement? I don't have it. I had it yesterday, but not today.
I should have pulled that up, but I thought it was one or 2 year appointments
I
initially.
did too, but I'm just saying what the commissioners
Then-
stated today.
But then it'll become 3 year appointments, but it sounds like the commissioners moved ahead with a 3 year appointment.
So like I said, Commissioner Boyer was one, and Dave Fleming was the other one. So, from the county. School district will have a special meeting they talked about yesterday, and have something provided by the 15th, maybe. Even if we move with our first scheduled meeting before that, Dr. Neal said he would attend, you know, the first meeting, just to keep them up to speed. So, council, what would you like? Discussion time.
Shannon and Derek.
Yeah, yeah.
Short, negotiating the terms, though.
1 to 2 year.
She'll negotiate it.
Okay, so I'm hearing for the discussion or a nomination, so Luke, do you make a nomination to appoint Shannon Scott for 2 years and Derek for 1 year as the City of Craig's representatives to the Moffett Economic Development Authority?
Second.
Okay? Luke made a motion, second by Mr. Jackson. Okay? Any discussion? Clear as mud? All in favor? Well, hold on, Peter?
Just looking at the agreement, it looks like 3 and a 2-year term.
I thought it was a 1 year originally, we said.
I
on
think
the
originally we
tablet.
said 1 for the setup.
Yeah. Right.
I'm out then.
Well, anyway, we'll match what the county did.
I'll amend the motion.
All right, no other questions? 1 and 3, we matched the county. You met your motion, is that right? Okay. You got it, Katie?
So one year for,
Mr. Duran? 3 years for Ms. Scott? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome, Derek. Congratulations, and Shannon. Police Chief Michael Cochran to present for discussion and approval a donation to Advocates Crisis, Trauma, and Survivor Services, ACTS, in the amount of $25,000 to sustain operations until December 31st, 2025. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. For saving time, we had a workshop earlier and discussed most of this. So my recommendation, due to financial hardship, is that we do a contribution to Advocates for $25,000 to sustain their service till the end of the year. We all know how vital that is and how it's required. Any questions I can answer on that, or any comments?
I think we discussed it pretty thoroughly, at our workshop, but I think, council, you want to put some stipulations on financials, and I think that's what our discussion was.
So do you want those stipulations in this
Would it be on this one or next year's?
or next year's budget?
I'd say you would want to see how they spent the money through the end of this year, too, if they're living up to their third time restructuring.
Maybe like a final report then.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you're the,
Well, I mean, I would agree. I would like final report and updates, but I also want to make sure that someone from this council gets on that board. And so we have monthly reports back. Now, whether that's now or whether that's for 2026, doesn't matter to me, but I want to make sure that's part of it, no matter what we do.
okay? So with that said, I'll take a motion, then we can discuss.
Do we need to include that in our motion?
Yeah.
All right, I'll try. I'll make a motion to approve a one-time donation to Advocates Crisis, Trauma, and Survival Services in the amount of $25,000 to sustain operations until December 31st, 2025. An exchange, I guess, or involved with that, we would ask for a 2025 annual financial report, and potentially moving forward in 2026, if they are looking for budget support, then we have a liaison
And financial.
and financials, quarterly financials.
Second.
Councilmember made a motion to approve the one-time donation of $25,000 to ACTS, seconded by Councilman Tucker. Any further discussion? And Katie, you have all that motion recorded?
So I have the motion that is on the table as a motion to approve the donation to Advocates Crisis, Trauma, and Survivor Services Acts in the amount of $25,000 to sustain operations until December 31st, 2025, with the condition of a 2025 financial report and a liaison on the board for 2026 and quarterly financial updates in 2026.
Excellent.
Couldn't said it any better.
Okay, council, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, your donation is approved. Thank you, Chief. Item I, Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present for discussion and approval of Resolution 26, 2025, a resolution to appropriate appropriate funds in the general fund for the donation of $25,000 to Advocates Crisis Trauma and Survivor Services Acts.
Good evening again. So Resolution 26, you just heard the chief in our workshop earlier today, and you just approved the $25,000 to carry them through the end of the year. So this is appropriating the $25,000 so that we can send that to them.
Now we got to put the money in the checkbook.
Got to appropriate the money to spend it.
All right, okay. Council,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 26, 2025.
Second.
Councilmember Tucker made a motion to approve Resolution 26, 2025, seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Councilman, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the money's in the checkbook. Item 9, council discussion for requests for future agenda items. Anything? I know we're going late, so.
Potential 5-minute recess when we have long agendas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tonight's the first, yeah. At any time you want to just feel free to motion and take off, because we're not gonna control body breaks. We will hold the vote till you do return now, okay? All right, hearing that, staff reports, Road and Bridge Director Shane Baker to present Road and Bridge and Solid Waste Staff Report. Shane, good evening.
Good evening, council. Just an update from Road and Bridge that's from kind of this spring, what's been going on, and some fall events that we have coming up. Some special events and road closures, starting off with Fall Fest through Homecoming. We just got that one. Chief sent that to me last week. Trick or Treat downtown and the Parade of Lights. That should finish us off for the rest of the year for road closures. For capital projects, overlays are completed June 23rd. They went well. They were around 8th Street and Russell around the new complex over there. That turned out really good. The curb and gutter, we got about 900 linear feet done right now. Actually, that's about 1,100 after today. That's about 75% complete. The valley pan replacement that goes along with that, we completed the pans at 8th and Russell, 2nd and Bilsing, 3rd and Taylor, and 10th and Taylor. So you guys can see some of those that we've done. They're a lot smoother. They're 8-foot pans now. The roadway master plan, and I think Danny's talked about this already. We've opened those. We actually got 10, I believe, 10 or 11. And so it was a good turnout on those. We're evaluating those and should have something to the next meeting. So some of the stuff Road and Bridge has been working on through May and July. Of course, spring cleanup, that went really well this year. The sweepers were able to get out sooner than I think we ever have been. Bladed dirt roads and alleys, and installed some drains at 13th and Rose and 8th between Marlin and Prairie where that flooding was last spring. Painted curbs. The biggest thing was we crack filled and prepped for chip seal in the Highland Park area. So we got 8 miles done with that a day early, so that went really well. Some paving we've done internally. We paved 3rd Street here behind City Hall. I don't know if you guys have been on that. And then this week, or last week, we paved Steel Street from Industrial down to the dead end. That turned out really, really good. So, and then we seal coated the 8th Street parking lot and then the trail from Finley to Ledford, and crack sealed that as well. So those are turned out pretty nice. So some fall projects that we still have to do is finish all the open patching. We have a lot of curb and gutter, still patch the valley pans. Our water department's been kind of having some bad luck with water breaks, so we're gonna have our hands full getting that stuff done. We're hopeful to still get the alley on the east side of the 500 block, kind of behind Masterworks paved. That is, it's pretty optimistic at this point with all the open patching, but that still is the goal to get that done. Of course, blade roads and alleys, clean culverts and ditches and drains before winter, our winter sand mixture, street sign replacement, and then sweeper fall cleanup this fall. So should be a pretty busy fall. The shop and mechanics, they've done 421 services and work orders, taken 764 hours. That's a super busy shop if you guys ever want to come out, and those guys are constantly rotating stuff in and out of there. So as for our training, we've completed our quarterly training through CERSA and Pinnacle and completed all of our flagging certifications, including our part-time kids. So Just a quick CDOT, I talked with them. I went through a walkthrough with the traffic light at 9th and Yampa. It turned out good. I guess it would be the southwest corner where that entrance into the Craig Hotel used to be. That's now an ADA ramp. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. They shut that entrance down, and it looks super, super nice. It lined up with our sidewalk we put in last year, so everything turned out really good there. The passing lanes between Craig and Steamboat will be in design scoping review this September, so that's moving forward. And then the culvert repairs on Ranny at Loudy Simpson will take place this September. They're hopeful after the week after Labor Day, and it's only supposed to take 5 days, so.
Is that complete replacement or?
No, they're slip lining those, if I remember right. It won't interrupt any of the traffic, so. And then for solid waste, so far this year, they've hauled 5,474 tons. That's really close to where we were at this year. And when I wrote this, we had picked up 25 deer, but I had a meeting with Rod, and they're up to 31. They picked up 6 last week. Side load automated truck that was awarded by council early this year. The cabin chassis is completed, and is at the Bree, the warehouse, the factory there for the body. The ETA is March of 2026. The 1,500 gallon used oil tank that we had awarded this year should be awarded actually at the end of next week. So our recycle center for oil will be shut down for possibly 2 days next week. And we have that on Facebook getting put out to let the public know. The crew has been, back to the tank. We've been working with the state, kind of going through the closeout with that. I've never done that. That's kind of a big deal, shutting one of those down. Not anything that I was ready for. So it's going good though. The crew's been bringing in dumpsters that have graffiti on them to repaint. We have 7 of them currently. So if you see any of those, let Danny, me, Peter know. And then we completed the quarterly training of Sursa and Pinnacle as well. And the last thing for solid waste, we're planning our 2 weeks for seniors for call-ins for extra pickups this fall. It'll start October 27th through November 7th. They call in the day before their service, and we'll come pick up extras for them for free. And then at that same time, we'll have roll-offs at Road and Bridge for solid waste customers to bring bagged leaves and branches. We did that last year, and it worked pretty good, so.
I just took 2 loads to the dump today.
Should have called. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Shane, with the passing lanes, the design, are we still looking, is that speeding things up, or are we still looking 5 to 6 years before they do anything?
It's going to be a while, I would say.
I think they show it like 2 or 3 years out for construction.
Yeah.
They don't have funding for it.
Right, they don't have any money. That's.
Yeah.
It is a high priority, but no money. While I have the floor, I did want to add one item under CDOT. Some of you may have noticed or received calls. The traffic signal at Highway 13 and Highway 40. Apparently, CDOT made some changes there with the signal heads and the operations of that, particularly in the north-south direction. Apparently, the police department was aware of it and assisted with some temporary traffic control while they did that work, I think, just yesterday. So I'm told they're done making adjustments, but there are some operational changes there that you'll notice. And I don't know why they did it, and truthfully I haven't driven through it since the changes were made, so I can't speak to exactly what they did, but.
Did they add turn arrows?
Yeah.
They added the arrows, but they didn't the first day, and so it generated quite a few complaints, so.
I think the north and south aren't going to go at the same time, right?
Yeah, they're on a split phase, I believe.
Cool,
Shane,
that's
with
good to
the
know.
water main patching,
Yeah.
since there's been so much of it, does that come out of your budget, or does that come out of water?
Yeah, so it initially comes out of our budget, and then at the end of the year, I yearly bill water for the asphalt. We keep track of everything, and we bill at the end of the year. Any other questions?
No, but I just have a comment. I'll just say thank you to Shane and his crew. They got paving done on Steel Street, which we're kind of at the end of that right there before the railroad, and perfect timing before it rained and we got more mud. So, but thank you. It's just great to work with you guys. You know, you called ahead to let us know because we were obviously kind of locked in there, and so we just appreciate your efforts, and we appreciate the fact that that's paid now. Great work.
I'll let the guys know.
Thank you.
We spoke about this at the last meeting, you weren't here, but your crew played an integral part in stopping the fire spread on 13th Street. Your resources and your manpower was greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you.
And the citizens, I'm sure, will thank, yeah. So. And then we get the budget, we'll talk about Mr. Manhole for next year.
Hey, we've been using it.
Have you?
Yeah, we did. I think we've done 10 or 12 up. We started using it in our chip seal area when we're patching. So I sent Derek a video of it.
I was gonna say, give them your cell number and you'll get pictures.
Send them to me, because, you know, I
Did
still
look pretty
going up
cool.
Finley, dodge all the manholes going
It
up
is
there.
hard to go, you know, when we're working in one area for chip seal, it's
Right.
easier to take that when you're just doing that area and you're doing 10 or 12 there instead of going all over town, so.
Well, good, no, I'm happy to hear that, thank you. Mr. Manhole was a piece of equipment we bought, how many years ago? 5? You know, something for Road and Bridge, so. Okay. Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present financial report for July 2025. Ms. Elliott.
Good evening. I gave you, or your packet contains the financials through the end of July, and I also have a summary sheet that I handed out to each of you, so we'll go through those. Countywide sales tax, this is through June sales. Compared to 2024 actuals, we're down 47, just a little over 47,000, and compared to 2025 budget, we're down 35,000. On city sales tax through June sales, compared to 2024, we're up 264,000, and compared to 2025 budget, we're up 254,000. One of the questions when we were presenting the ordinance last time for the ballot issue on the marijuana, several had asked about an additional tax on alcohol. I did put it out to listserv. We heard back from 20 municipalities, a majority of them on the eastern slope, and of those 20 that responded, only the city and county of Denver charges an additional tax on alcohol. They charge a 0.5% additional tax, and funds are designated towards their convention center. So in budget talks, if that's something that we want to pursue, it won't hit the ballot, obviously, until the following, but, you know, we can be in conversations about that.
We could do something and dedicate it to the sports complex funding or
Dedicated to something.
something of that, so.
Next slide is the graph of city sales tax. Again, we're seeing same stuff from you know, month to month, year over year. No real big surprises in there. On the water fund, okay, now this is through July. Compared to 2024 actuals, we're up 222,000, and compared to 2025 budget, we're up 121,000. On wastewater, compared to 2024 actuals, we're up 226,000, and compared to 2025 budget, we're up 17,000. On construction dumpsters, compared to 2024 actuals, we're down $818, but compared to 2025 budget, we're up 17,000. On collection fees, through July 2024 actuals, we're up 83,000, and compared to 2025 budget, we're up 33,000. And revenues from the landfill fees, compared to 2024 actuals, we're up 18,000. That's also compared to 2025 budget, same amount. Now moving on to the fund summaries in our general fund. Through July, we started out with a beginning fund balance of $23,380,491. We've added revenues of $8,488,477. Expenditures of $7,245,215. Capital expenditures of $1,914,086, with an ending fund balance of $22,709,668. The next slide is a breakout of the revenues by type. As you see, we added, through July, we were at added revenues of $8,488,477. In our capital projects fund, beginning fund balance, $521,933. We've had revenues of $159,880, expenditures of $81,352, and an ending fund balance of $600,460. In the museum fund, beginning fund balance of $522,879, revenues of $454,336, expenditures of $343,657, and an ending fund balance of $633,558. I did add an additional note through the June sales. The additional marijuana for the museum is at $43,000, and for the library at $43,000, same amount. We do cap out at $100,000, and we are going to hit that with July sales, or into the August sales. They're reported. We did send out a letter to the marijuana entities to let them know that beginning September 1st, they need to stop collecting that additional 3%, as we will be capped out. All right, now in our water fund, beginning fund balance was $7,432,157. Revenues of $2,564,880. Expenditures of $2,979,456, with an ending fund balance of $7,017,581. In our wastewater fund, beginning fund balance of $3,674,147. Revenues of $1,746,620, and expenditures of $895,470, and ending fund balance of $4,525,297. In solid waste, beginning fund balance $1,718,539. Revenues of $1,308,781. Expenditures of $926,106, and an ending fund balance of $2,101,214. In our medical fund, beginning fund balance $537,341. Revenues of $1,725,304. Expenditures of $1,697,838, with an ending fund balance of $564,807. In the Craig Housing Authority, beginning fund balance $678,629, revenues of $5,038, and this is the ugly one. We had to record the loan from the city, so we're at expenditures of $2,982,977 for an ending fund balance of negative $2,299,310. In the Craig Urban Renewal, beginning fund balance $167,765, revenues of $341. Expenditures of $2,886,000, and an ending fund balance of $165,220. And the next slide is Color Trust. End of July, our balance in there is $28,791,843.08. For CSAFE, we do not have a July statement. Their system was down the majority of July. They just brought it back up online, so when I report the August financials, we'll have the ending balance for July and August. And then the final in your packet is the capital outlay. Shows where those are all at through the end of July. Does anybody have any questions?
We actually projected a decrease in sales tax when we did 25's budget, right?
We did.
Yeah.
That was what most of CML listserv were seeing,
Right.
the same amount. This year is going to be a little tougher. We're not seeing that exact same consistency. A lot of cities, some are up, 10, 20%, some are down 20%. So we're probably going to be pretty conservative and keep it flat.
Keep it, yeah. Conservative is better than especially revenues projections, so. Cool, thank you. Questions for Mindy? Derek didn't like my comment.
I like it.
Conservative.
9.
Okay, moving on, closing remarks and informational items.
I have a couple things, I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead, Michelle.
Katie and Mayor, I just want to clarify for the record, I voted for Meadows. I think it sounded like I might have said nay.
So it was an A vote.
Yes, it was.
It was a yay?
Yeah,
Okay, I stand corrected there. That was 6-1.
yes.
Okay,
And then just for Chief and Peter, as mentioned in the workshop this afternoon, if we do want to move towards reappointment to the Axe Board, happy to take that back on. For Danny, there are tag tables and play equipment at Bree Street Park. We spend quite a bit of time there, so there is some graffiti there, if you're not aware of that. And then one more thing, since Chief is here tonight, I just wanted to give a shout out to Sambu. He's been incredible. He's been in the classrooms already. I saw him this morning helping with traffic at the new stoplight by the middle school. He was at the football game Friday night, and the kids just love him. I mean, he was autographing their little footballs, and they just adore him. So I do really appreciate what he's doing for the children. Wanted you to hear that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pass that on.
That is all I have tonight.
great. Any other? Hearing none, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Looper's motion, second by Councilwoman Camp. All in favor?
I